the brief introduction of our keynote speaker is Dr. Sajid Ali is the Director of Research uh, and Professor at Aga Khan University, Pakistan. He holds a PhD in Education Policy from the University of Edinburgh. His work focuses on education policy governance and reforms. He is the recipient of multiple national and international awards. He has contributed to key education policies in Pakistan, and currently he leads a research on public-private partnership in education. So please.
Bismillah-Rahman-Rahim. So the topic today for my discussion is teaching license. And since what I have had planned, there have been very active discussions in the rooms, in parallel discussions. I think there was a big buzz about teaching license even yesterday. So I had to change certain things in my slides just to be relevant, more relevant to the audience. I think one of my introductions could also include that I'm also the member of the Sindh Teaching License Committee. I think the title that I'm presenting today is Teaching License. We often talk about why it is needed, what it is, and how it is going to be implemented in our context, if it has to be. In fact, in Sindh, it has already been implemented. So I'll take you through those kinds of things. Professor Bob Lingard, he's a very famous education policy scholar. Happened to be my own professor. He often used to ask this question: what is the problem to which this is a solution? We often talk about different solutions because policy sometimes is understood as a solution. What is the problem to which this is a solution? And I think if teaching license is a policy solution, we need to ask ourselves, what is the problem? Because for whenever we have a discussion around teaching license, people have multiple kinds of challenges in their mind. And so even when we are talking about one policy solution, we have different sets of questions in our head. So let me be very explicit where I do come from. And so whenever we discuss in Q&A session, we can have better understanding of each other. So the problem that I see is the problem of low levels of learning. I think we all educationists know through various evidences as well, TIMSS 2019, USER survey, National Education Achievement Center surveys, even more recently National Achievement Tests conducted by PI, it all says the same thing, that we have low levels of learning. And so how to ensure improve your students' learning? That seems to be the central problem for me whenever I discuss teaching license problem. So the next obvious question is, if a student's learning is the central problem, what factors has the most effect on a student's learning? And I think research after research shows that effective teachers are the biggest in-school factors. Now, there are multiple out-school factors as well. Effective teachers are the most important in-school factors that contribute to students' learning outcomes. John Hattie's very famous research talks about he has done analysis of around 252 indicators and see how different indicators affect teaching learning outcomes for students. Teachers related factors come on top. Professor Hanushe, he has also carried out research about the effectiveness of teachers. In fact, Hanushe, because he's an economist of education, he has quantified that if, for example, you have two classes, one is taught by an effective teachers and one is taught by an ineffective teachers, after 1 year, the difference between the two classes is almost 1 year. So suppose if I'm taught by a poor teacher and Nasab is taught by an effective teacher, after 1 year, Nasab would be 1 year above me. Now, if you go on for this for 10 years, after 10 years, I'll be at grade 5 level. Nasab would be at the, in fact, higher level than that. So that's Professor Hanushe is saying. And that's why it's very important to have effective teachers. Even the McKinsey report that was very common, how schools improve, talks about teachers factor as the most important factor. Now, if there is so much emphasis on teachers, we also have to see how effective are our teachers in our own country. Here, I would like to refer to one research that is carried out by my own colleagues in IED, Aachen University, Professor Sadia Bhutta and Dr. Nusrat Rizvi. And what they found out was it was a nationwide research. It was looking at maths and science maths and science classrooms, as well as the students' learning outcomes across Pakistan, both public and private sector. What they conclude was that 86% teachers in maths and science show weak practices, weak classroom practices. That means whatever practices we expect from effective teachers, these were not displayed by the teachers. And this is based on first-hand classroom observation. So while learning is the most important thing, teachers can make the highest difference, the most difference. Our teachers in the classroom are not as effective as they should be. What makes teachers effective? So I also carried out that analysis, and I found a systematic review by Lopez Martin, very recent, 2023. And they looked at various factors that affect teachers' effectiveness, and these come on top, and this shouldn't be surprising. Reflective, a teacher who has a reflective attitude, a teacher who has who values professional development, as Hafizah was saying, a professional development which is self-driven rather than being supplied. The self-efficacy, knowledge level, qualifications, initial training, all these factors make an effective teachers. And in fact, the bottom line is very important. Teachers' competencies explain 9% of the difference in students' performance, which increases to 17% in medium and low income countries, which is kind of ours. So that's the kind of difference that teachers can make. How to ensure that our teachers possess those skills is the question that we all struggle with. We have tried with multiple continuous professional development programs. We have tried with various kinds of options. And I think I propose that teaching license could be one such element that has the potential to cause improvement in teachers. Now, I'm saying it is one of the possible solutions. I'm not saying that this is the solution. Okay, now if this is what I propose, here is how I believe the change theory could work in terms of how teaching license can improve teachers' competency. Now, if you improve students' learning outcome is the goal that we all aim for, quality teacher is the most important factor that can contribute. Now, I'm making it very, very simple. It's not that simple. It's multiple complex because there are other factors that affect on student learning outcomes. But for the sake of argument, if we control for other factors, generally, teacher education programs are supposed to have better quality teachers who would go and cause better learning in students. But as I showed you earlier, this is not happening for a variety of reasons. And I propose teacher licensing could come as a catalyst that could have a forward as well as a backward effect. Forward effect, if we, for example, through teaching license, we are able to get quality and effective teachers in our classrooms, certainly they could have effect on students' learning outcomes. But it also has a tendency to have a backwash effect. जिस तरह हम assessment में कहते हैं कि assessment also has a backwash effect. The way the assessment is carried out by examining authority also affects the teaching learning in those schools. For example, in our metric system, in our O-level systems, in our Aachen examination board system, the teachers tend to teach to exam. The teachers see, so if the exam is conceptual based, teachers tend to teach that way. If exam is rote memorization based, then teachers tend to teach that way. So hopefully, if we have a good licensing system, this could possibly be a source of introspection by the teacher education institutions. And I think I can give you an example from Sindh where a good number of students couldn't make it to the teaching license test. And I think this is a call for those institutions whose graduates were able to make it or not able to make it. And I think that's how the students and as well as the teacher education programs could make decisions in the future that which programs would probably calibrate themselves towards some certain things. Now, this is one possibility. What happens is anybody's guess. I think we have to ask one important question, and I raised that question even in the discussion yesterday, in the panel discussion. Who teaching license is for? Generally, जब हम teaching license बात करते हैं तो, and I make a very subtle difference. We often talk about teacher's license. जब हम teacher's license की बात करते हैं तो I think we focus more on the personality of teacher. I tend to talk about teaching license. Just as we have driving license, it's about the competency that teachers display. So I would argue that we often talk about teaching license. We should be talking more about teaching license. So if teaching license, I think in reality is for the students. Generally any license, whether it be driving license, whether it be license for arms or anything, it's for the protection of the vulnerable. In classrooms, students are the most vulnerable thing. Teacher can do anything. हमारे teachers जिस तरह की classroom होती है, corporal punishment is despite its banning is still prevalent in certain areas. Even if people don't have teachers don't practice corporal punishment, there are other ways teachers can affect students. So it is to actually ensure that the vulnerable is protected, just as driving license is for the protection of pedestrian, the other licenses. So डॉक्टर से हमें बड़ा ख़तरा होता है कि हम चाहते नहीं हैं कि किसी ऐसे डॉक्टर की, जब भी हमें किसी डॉक्टर को खुदा ना खाकर किसी को बीमारी हो जाती है तो हम 10 मशवरे करते हैं, यार इस डॉक्टर के पास जाना चाहिए नहीं जाना चाहिए, because we do not want to hand ourselves or our kids to the doctors that we do not have trust. Now, in schools we take a leap of faith. Or sometimes we don't even have the choice, especially in the government sector, where you just enroll and it's on the mercy of the teacher. If the teacher happened to be good, it would produce positive results. So teaching license essentially is for the students, and also it ensures minimum benchmarks. It doesn't ensure the highest benchmarks. So that's also something that we also have to keep in mind, that any licensing is to ensure minimum benchmarks rather than the excellence. The excellence teacher will always thrive and may not have scripted teaching. We also, it's a bit dated, but I think one of the thing that we produced in 2019 at Aga Khan University, we produced a white paper on teaching license. One of the analysis that we carried out was to look at, does teaching license has any effect on overall countries' profiles. And we looked at PISA scores, and I think these are the scores of 2018 because we carried out these analyses in 2019. And we look at different a trajectory of teachers' management system. So teachers are to be prepared, any system, prepare teacher, and then provide condition for teaching. So condition to teach here is any kind of requirement for certification or teaching license, and then the recruitment process and retention process. And so we were looking at whether and how strong the systems are. So if you see 3 dots, if you see a black solid dot, that means the system is strong at that level. If you see a cross within the box, it means the system is weak, medium. It has a medium strength, and if it's a hollow circle, the system shows weak strength. Now, if you only focus on the solid dots, the top countries who ranks high on PISA are China, Singapore, Finland, South Korea, even USA, UK, 13th and 14th. And you see there are solid dots over there. That means they have strong controls in terms of giving admissions, in terms of quality assurance of the program, in terms of graduation requirements. And so they control that good quality candidates join the teacher education program. And once they ensure that the good quality teachers or candidates join the teacher program, the rest of the case is easier. Even in Singapore, they are employed by the state. So if you can control at that level, I think that's the best thing. But then many of these countries also have conditions, whether in the form of certifications or in the form of teaching license. I was doing PhD in education in UK. I couldn't teach in their school because I had to have a PGCE, postgraduate certificate in education. In Pakistan, anybody could walk in any private school. If you impress the teacher there, we can teach. They can employ you. Even in government, we have removed the conditions of teacher education degree qualification in very massive recruitment. Even in Sindh, where we have recruited around 60,000 teachers. So these are some of the things. In certain countries, the requirement at the recruitment level are also high, and they have effect on the overall ranking in the national or international ranking systems in assessments. How can license be issued? There has been a lot of references to USA. There has been a lot of references to other countries where different kinds of stringent mechanisms are practiced. Singapore, Finland. Here we also have to be very careful about the size or the quantum of the challenge. In Pakistan, only in Sindh, we have 150,000 teachers in public sector. So if you calculate the number of teachers that we have around 600,000 teachers in Pakistan. Add the private sector, these are around 1 million teachers that we are talking about. Singapore has a very, very minimum size. It doesn't have even 1,000 schools. It doesn't have the kind of challenge that we are dealing with. They can control. Finland can control. We may not be able to control. In fact, in our discussion about teaching license policy and consultation, we explicitly asked the scholars. We invited the scholars from USA, from Singapore, from different countries, and we explicitly asked what are their advice for Pakistan. In fact, the professor from Singapore said that probably Singaporean system would not be applicable to you because it's based on a small number of schools, a small number of teachers, controlled environment. USA, on the other hand, matches the quantum, but with very different resources that we have at our hand. And what I'm going to share with you are different kinds of practices that are available on issuance of the licenses, and then perhaps something that we have done in Sindh to see what is possible and what can be done in Pakistani situation. So generally, whenever we look at US teacher licensing system, it's a federalist system. Each state has its own regulations, but generally they require a bachelor's degree which is accredited from an institution. They want some kind of state-approved preparation program, which could be most of the time degree, but sometimes it could be some certifications. And there are licensure exams with different names. Dr. Afshan was talking about Praxis, so Praxis, CBST, GACE, TEX, different kinds of systems. In some states, there are, in fact, portfolio-based teaching license issuance systems, so they vary. And then they often issue a provisional or initial license followed by a full certification. And then a requirement of continuous professional education for the renewal. So this is generally the kind of trajectory in US system. You have to have some education background, you have to pass some qualification, and start the process. Only then you can think of yourself being into the classroom, not before that. So this is the US system. We also looked at some states, what are their comparisons, and I think here is an example of Texas, California, and Georgia, the kind of pre-qualifications they have, the licensure requirements, the validity generally it ranges around 5 years, and then there are probationary periods. Issuing authority are generally the state education, their websites, and there are other things that can be considered. It also have to be kept in mind that license requirements are generally from the employer. The state that place some conditions that only these people can be recruited as teachers. Expanding ourselves to some global trends. Here are examples from UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Finland. Now, not every country call their conditions as license. Some refer to it as certificates. Some don't even refer to it, but they have conditions in place. So, for example, in Finland, you cannot teach unless you have a master's education in subject pedagogical skills, and Ministry of Education only employs you that. In Singapore, the ministry generally, if you are recruited into NIE, National Institute for Education, you become an employee of the state. You receive a stipend and you have a guaranteed job. That's the kind of thing that are there. Um, each country has different kinds of requirements. Sometimes these requirements are on paper. So, for example, if you ask about Pakistan, we do have requirements, but those requirements are often sidelined because of one political exigency or another. So sometimes these conditions are also not looked at. So these are different kinds of licensing things that are prevalent in there, not necessarily named license, but generally they are conditions to teach, that you are not allowed to go into the school uh, to teach unless you meet certain requirements. And also we have to be mindful that many of these systems have majority public sector education system, which is very different than Pakistan education system, which has almost 40% of its schools in the private sector. So I think that's another factor which is very different in our cases. Moving on to the possibilities of teaching license in Pakistan. What are the possibilities? Because systems, as some of us know, that licensing discussion about teaching licenses started somewhere around 2010, 11 under UNESCO triggered this discussion, and then USA pre-step program triggered that discussion, but did not flourish from there onwards. In Sindh, we picked up this discussion in 2017 roughly. I teach a course on education policy. Once in that course, so the story in Sindh begins with a classroom assignment, and that's how I think here's a lesson for all of us who are in higher education. Sometimes the kind of assignments that we carry out in our classes could have a very lasting effect. In 2007, so in that policy course, I generally ask students that we pick up a policy area, we work around it. Sometimes we do implementation, sometimes we make policies. In 2017, we decided that we work on teaching license policy. And we actually, in our connection with STEDA, I talked to the STEDA, and STEDA actually gave us a platform that we can work with them. It was a classroom activity. At the end of the classroom activity, we did consultations, we did a number of different activities, and a policy did come out. Nothing happens from 2017 till 2019-20. In 2020, we picked up because our new dean was very keen on introducing some kind of conditions for teach. STEDA was also keen at that time. Durbin also became very keen on that time. We were already working on white paper on teaching license in 2019, which we issued jointly. So there were a number of factors that happened very collaboratively in the context of Sindh, and that's why what we see in Sindh has happened. Rasul Shah Saab, who was here yesterday, did talk about certain things. But let me share some lessons from Sindh. I think it would have broader lessons. First of all, there was a political will. The Minister of Education was onboarded. They were looking at how can we ensure that our teachers show quality, have quality. So there was a strong political will. And there was a continuation of political will. The Minister of Education was there in 2019, also the current education minister. Even during the interim period, Ms. Rana, who was in the teaching license committee, continued to be a caretaker education minister at that time. So there was a very strong link. Stakeholders involvement. The universities were quite involved, which are working on teacher education programs. Teachers union were quite involved. The education department was quite involved. STEDA was definitely taking lead in it, and there was a teaching license committee formulated, and we were working with them. There was a long gestation period. All of these things which I'm telling you took place around 3 years. And luckily, we didn't have any foreign funding available. So all of us were contributing. AIOU, for example, in the form of my time was contributing. Durbin, in the form of their time, was contributing. STEDA contributed in their own time and work. So this is an example in which we can say that things happen irrespective of that. And that's why there were down times, nothing was happening, but there were up times, something happening, and then we left it to the natural growth. And as a result, STEDA itself started taking ownership. We also were working closely with the recruitment policy alongside the teacher licensing policy. Because if, for example, teaching license is not linked to the recruitment requirement, or we wanted to make it an incentive-based policy, it would probably not have the kind of effect that we wanted. So those things were done. The policy was incentive-based, so we could have taken an approach, as Dr. Mirza was saying yesterday, that from now on every teacher has to have a license. कल से सबको license लेना पड़ेगा, and that would create a huge resistance amongst teachers, amongst everyone. So we didn't go for that purpose. We, in fact, in teaching license policy, since we introduced an incentive-based policy. So you can carry on with your pathway, especially in the public sector. You can carry on with your pathway, and you will have national promotion as per the rules. But if you take teaching license, you have an opportunity for higher incentive. So grade 14 teachers, if with teaching license, could have grade 16. And in our negotiation with the teachers union, so initially we were looking only at pre-service teachers to get the license, because we were very mindful that teachers union isko bada resist karenge. But when teachers union heard of the incentive, they came forward that to include in-service teachers as well, उनकी भी eligibility होनी चाहिए. तो फिर हमने जो policy में जो next revisions है उसमें in-service teachers भी involve हुए. We have a gradual rollout of Sindh. So though the policy, if you have read it, says that there would be primary school teachers license, secondary school teachers license, elementary school teachers license, but we only went initially with the role of elementary school teachers. There were assurances that the tests were to be conducted by third party. Now, again, for the test, it's not an ideal situation for assessing the pedagogy and competency of a teacher. But what were the alternatives? If you have to see and assess a teacher's, the best thing is to have a classroom observation of that teacher, see that teacher in practice and assess how good that teacher is. But given this kind of circumstances that we have, for example, if there are 4,000 applicants who have applied it, how many observers do we need? And then with the kind of situation that we have, the trust deficits we have, the kind of negative practices that we have, how to ensure those things. So this is not the best and ideal case, but we have tried to introduce both the tests as well as assessment of pedagogy and content. We look at the curriculum of B.Ed, we look at the national curriculum for at least 3 subjects, math, science, and language. And we look at the teacher professional standards, national professional standards for teachers. Those are the basis of development of tests. So that's how it has translated. Having said that, nothing is perfect. So I begin with this thing, but I think those of us who are scholars have also looked at the articles that are critical of the teaching licenses. In fact, when I was preparing for it, I found some cautionary note. So TPA, Teacher Performance Assessment, is a licensing test adopted in certain USA states. Some states have actually withdrawn that test because of its negative effect. It was demotivating teachers who wanted to come into the teaching license. So these are some precautionary notes. We are not at the situation where we have less people applying for teaching positions. In USA, they have lots of vacancies for the teachers. So in that kind of situation, they have certain cautions. So these are some thoughts that I have as far as teaching license is concerned. It's a journey. It's not the ideal situation. It's not the ideal case. But this is something that is worth trying. That's what I'm saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So now we are moving towards question answer session. If you have any question related to this keynote speech, you can ask. Yes.
Thank you very much, Sajid. I think it is a long journey, and I'm familiar with this journey, and I think it's very pleasing, very encouraging that finally we have reached a point. A couple of quick points. You talked about the test of this for licensing. Can we see some of the items which you give on that test? That is question number 1. Question number 2 is that in countries like US, in medical profession, the license after every 5 years or 7 years, they have to reappear in a new test. So, do you have that kind of roadmap uh, in your thought that once they take this teaching license, it's not forever, and they get relaxed? Do you think that they should be having taking another test after, say, 5 years or 7 years? Thank you.
The second question is easy for us because the current policy provides for renewals after 5 years. It requires that teachers, once they have the license, they should continue to show some continuing professional education. And in fact, we have required one credit course worth per year, which has to be STADA approved. That's the kind of requirement that we have. So after 5 years, if you come, you have to show that you have taken these many credit hours, 5 credit hours of continuing professional education. So teachers have to do that. If, for example, you do not renew after 5 years, and if you go on 6th year, 7th year, so while you have to add, I think there might be fees penalty, but also credit hour penalty. So if you come after 6 years, you have to show 6 credit hours, 7 credit hours, 8 credit hours. So it doesn't absolve you of the continuing professional education. That's the provision in the policy at the moment. The test items, I cannot display, I don't have them, but I think when the test was launched, there was a very transparent process. Bids were called for third party. IBS Sakhar applied.
Can I quickly, what I'm interested in, not the detail, but what is the ratio between the content and pedagogy?
So there was 60-40 ratio, 60% content and 40% pedagogy. The tests, I don't have the item, but the content were from the elementary school curriculum, as well as national professional standards, and and we focused on math, science, and English language. For content, there was alternate to practicum kind of questions in which scenarios were given and teachers were asked about those kinds of questions. And the cutoff score for license was 50%. Minimum cutoff score. Once we had the result, the cutoff scores were determined. It was 50% for content plus 50% of pedagogy. So we were very sure that cumulative marks were not taken, because some people were there in cumulative scores which have shown, for example, cumulative 60%, but they didn't score equally 50% in content as well as pedagogy. Just like English language says, you have to show competency in teaching, in reading, writing, and listening. So those were the kinds of care that we have taken. And imagine I'm defending government.
Maybe I was looking at the table you were showing. That was the categorization or listing of the countries who students achieved maximum marks in PISA test. And you have enlisted at least, I think, 7 or 8 different characteristics. So teacher licensing was one of them. So it does not show what particular effect teacher licensing has on the achievement of the students if we are able to eliminate the effect of other factors, because it is just listing of them. So this is one my reservation, that it's not categorically saying that teacher license, those countries which where there was teacher licensing was available, those students who are performing well ahead of other teachers, because there are other factors which are included in your study. Number one. Number two is, if we are able to do that, is it any possibility that we could exclude the effect of other factors that we should be able to do? Number two, my observation is that in all these countries that you have listed, teacher qualification or pre-service education is compulsory. Every one country was having the other one. In our country, we have a different kind of culture here, and the some of the bureaucrats and some of the institutions who are promoting the concept of teacher licensing, I fear, and I have so many, I mean, of the reason for that, that at the end of the time, we will go away with teacher education, with pre-service education, and we will allow, like in USA it has been allowed, that anybody who is having qualification of BA, BSc level, they can enter into the test and they can get the lessons and start teaching, because that is one of the very major criteria of induction in the USA. So I fear that at the end of the time we will be getting rid of teacher qualification, and we will be focusing on, because bureaucracy, at least in Punjab, they are advocating for teacher licensing since the last 20 years. So I can name the person who are advocating this idea, and now because this idea is being sold by the institution like IED, so it is having ground in the, at least in the Sindh, and it will definitely have a ground in the Punjab as well. So this is my observation and my question.
I think I concur with your observation as far as the research is concerned. It doesn't directly tells you about the effect of teaching license on the learning. Um, and I think the slides that I was showing was only showing about various factors, stages, and how effect it is. We just simply juxtapose it with the PISA score to say. But I think we didn't carry out any kind of very sophisticated analysis. So that's a work to be done, and I take it. As far as your concern about getting rid of teacher education, uh, in Sindh, we were very particular, and if you look at the teaching license policy, it actually foregrounds teacher education. It says that teacher education qualification is necessary. In fact, it lists down that for primary school teachers, you have to have an ADE. For secondary school teachers, you have to have, for JEST, you have to have at least B.Ed, 4 years program. And in secondary, you have to be at 1.5 year with the subject mastery. It was very clear on that. And I think it is also, Sindh is also dealing with um, inflation of teacher education qualification degree. And I think it is also a question for ourselves that we know that some of our institutions' degree is not valued as much as other institutions. So this provides in Sindh a yardstick to also look at those people who come with different kinds of qualifications to prove that they are in fact so हमने सिंध में बिल्कुल ये प्रमोट नहीं किया आईडी ने भी बिल्कुल ये प्रमोट नहीं किया कि we get rid of teacher education. In fact, it has made it compulsory. It has developed the rules of recruitment that looks at different kind of teacher education qualification and their relationship with the license as well as promotion.
साहब साहब just एक छोटा सा सवाल. Yeah, how do we differentiate in an exam meant for licensing someone and the results they bring with them from any pre-service degree qualification? How do these two can be differentiated? For example, I've qualified from an institution with a BS degree or BA degree in something, and then over that I need to take a license exam as well. So how these two exams should be different? Weightage or in nature, in their very nature?
So in Sindh, 4,000 applicants applied and 646 passed. And I think what we also looked at, and this wasn't a public information, we looked at the graduating, the institutions that they graduated from. And there was a very clear understanding that the institutions which we suspect are not providing quality were actually the ones whose graduates did not perform well on those tests compared to the institutions that were performing better on that. So if, for example, you happen to be from an institution that provides good quality and look at their performance in the test was also better. Now, how to differentiate between the two, if you mean by differentiating that, if you can explain.
Differentiating in terms of their nature of exam. I mean, the way you said you are just looking at the data, so it tells me that it was a kind of verification of the qualification they possess. So is licensing exam is meant for these things, or are they two different things in their nature?
So I think it's from the recruitment perspective. Now, if you, for example, are an employer, you see certain competency in your candidate, a teacher. Um, these competencies are in the form of your content knowledge, in the form of your pedagogical skills, and that's what we are checking in the licensing test. And we hope that the institution's internal examination would also look after these things.
اس پہ بھی تھوڑا سا بعد میں بھی ڈسکشن کریں گے. لائسنس جاب کی گارنٹی تو نہیں ہوتا.
ان سندھ اس وقت جو جس طرح سے رول آؤٹ ہوا ہے اس میں امپلائمنٹ بھی فیکٹر تھی, بٹ وی ہیو آلسو ڈسکس انٹرنلی کہ وی کین ناٹ کنٹینیو ود دیٹ کائنڈ آف ریکروٹمنٹ پروسیس. اٹ ہیز ٹو بی ڈفرینٹ بیکاز آج شاید 646 گریجویٹ ہوئے ہیں, لیکن کل کو وہ زیادہ گریجویٹ ہوں گے. یو کانٹ پرووائڈ امپلائمنٹ ٹو ایوری ون. سو بالکل ایسا ہے.
آپ نے انویسٹ کیا نا مختلف کنٹریز میں, تو اس میں آپ نے انسٹیٹیوشن کا ذکر کیا ہے کہ جہاں سے پری سروس ایجوکیشن لی تھی. ہم مثلا سنگاپور کے مثال لے لیں تو نیشنل انسٹیٹیوٹ آف ایجوکیشن از ون آف دی بیسٹ انسٹیٹیوشن in terms of teacher education throughout the world, I can say. And that's why they have been, their students have been performing very well in different teams and PISA exams, etc. etc. For example, I can say, میں آج کی بات نہیں کرتا, پنجاب میں اگر میں آج سے کوئی 15-20 سال پہلے کی بات کروں تو ہمارا ایلیمنٹری کالج گکھڑ تھا. اٹ واز دی بیسٹ مطلب کالج فار ٹیچر ایجوکیشن. تو وہ انسٹیٹیوٹ جہاں سے پری سروس ایجوکیشن لے رہا ہے بندہ, وہ بھی افیکٹ ڈالتا ہے اور بہت زیادہ افیکٹ ڈالتا ہے,
بہت زیادہ ڈالتا ہے.
ٹھیک ہے. اور ہمارے پاس کوئی ایسی چیز نہیں ہے. واٹ میں جو کہنا چاہ رہا ہوں وہ یہ کہ مجھے اس پہ کوئی بات نہیں ہے. اصل ایشو جو ہے وہ ہے یعنی گڈ کوالیفائڈ ٹیچر, ہم جس کی بات کر رہے ہیں. چونکہ ہمارے ہاں ٹیچر ایجوکیشن بہت زیادہ پھیل گئی ہے, جیسے آپ نے کہا, آپ نے انفلیشن کا ذکر کیا, باقی یہی ہے. اب میرا انسٹیٹیوٹ ہے, ایک زمانہ تھا ہم 4 ڈگری فراہم کرتے تھے, آج ہم 20 ڈگریز فراہم کر رہے ہیں ایک ہی انسٹیٹیوشن کے اندر. تو ظاہر ہے کوالٹی تو سفر کرے گی نا. اور ہر ایک گلی محلے میں ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کا ادارہ کھول گیا ہوا ہے. اب جو اتنے سارے آ رہے ہیں گورنمنٹ کے پاس, تو ظاہر انہوں نے اسکرین آؤٹ کرنا ہے. تو اسکرین آؤٹ کرنے کے لیے جو مرضی آپ کر لیں وہ کر لیں, لیکن آپ اس کو ہم اس طرح کیسے آئیڈیا کو سیل کریں, مجھے بڑا فیئر ہے اس حوالے سے.
ٹھیک سر, ہم کیری آن کریں گے اس ڈسکشن.
Thank you very much. I think we are running short of time, and the remaining questions can be I think.
Thank you so much. اچھا, میرے 2-3 questions ہے. پہلا question recruitment سے related ہے. For example, we cannot shy away from what type of recruitment that goes on in Pakistan. For example, nepotism تو ہے ہی in سندھ کی بات کریں یا کہیں پہ بھی all across Pakistan, nepotism is part of the recruitment that goes on. تو اس کے ساتھ فار ایگزامپل اف یو میک اٹ مینڈیٹری ٹو ہیو اے ٹیچر لائسنس, تو اس کا کیا امپیکٹ پڑے گا لرننگ لیولس پہ یا بچوں کے اوور آل ایجوکیشن کے اوپر. اور دوسرا سوال یہ ہے کہ فار ایگزامپل گورنمنٹ اسکولس کے اندر ہی فار ایگزامپل اف یو میک اٹ مینڈیٹری فار ٹیچرس ٹو ہیو اے لائسنس اینڈ ایون ہیونگ اے لائسنس, تو وہ ایک ول نہیں ہوتا کہ وہ ایجوکیشن پرووائڈ نہیں کرتے, تو اس کے اوپر کیا امپیکٹ پڑے گا. اور تھرڈ کویشچن یہ ہے کہ فار ایگزامپل لائسنسنگ کے لیے آپ پی ٹی سی یا بی ایڈ یا فار ایگزامپل یہ جو پروفیشنل ڈگریز ہیں آپ مینڈیٹری کر دیتے ہیں, تو اس کے ساتھ کیا یہ آر دیز انف ٹو ہیو ٹو بی دا رائٹ پراکسیز جو ٹیچرز لائسنسنگ کے لیے.
نیپوٹزم کا میرے پاس کوئی علاج نہیں ہے, ٹھیک ہے, تو ہم اس کے ساتھ اسٹرگل کرتے رہیں گے. اٹس جسٹ کہ کوشش یہ کی گئی ہے کہ تھرڈ پارٹی اس کا ٹیسٹ لے, اس کے پاس لائسنسنگ کمیٹی بنائی گئی ہے جو کہ انڈیپینڈنٹ لوگوں کی ہے. سو دوز آر سم کنٹرولز دیٹ وی ہیو ڈن ان سندھ. مینڈیٹری کے اوپر ہم نہیں جا رہے, ہم انسینٹیو بیس پہ جا رہے ہیں. تو ویل کنٹینیو ٹو ورک آؤٹ کہ وہ لوگ اس کو خود سے چاہیں. PTC B.Ed मैंडेटरी हमारे लाइसेंस का मतलब बिल्कुल ये नहीं है जो हाफिज़ साहब का भी फेयर था कि टीचर एजुकेशन फॉर एग्जांपल अगर हमारे डॉक्टर अच्छा काम नहीं कर रहे शुड वी अबॉलिश MBBS डिग्री नो we have to improve our MBBS qualification. So our approach is the same in Sindh that we have to work to improve our qualifications as well. This is just as the wake up call जिस हाफिज़ आपने कहा बाकी लोग भी कहते हैं कि मुख्तलिफ टाइप के गली मोहल्ले के जो इंस्टीट्यूशन बन गए जब वो देखेंगे कि भाई इनके स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं वो परफॉर्म ही नहीं कर पा रहे टेस्ट में अच्छा सो दे विल नॉट एनरोल इन दोज थिंग्स और उसके बाद वो खुद ब खुद ऑटोमेटिकली स्क्रीन आउट होंगे इंशाल्लाह अगर हम इसी उससे चलते रहे सो द आइडिया ऑफ टीचिंग लाइसेंस इज़ नॉट टू remove teacher education qualification but to strengthen it and I think with the analogy that I give you of the MBBS things would be clearer.
Ji, thank you very much. Sir, the nature of questions coming from audience tells that your topic is very significant. So thank you very much for such an insightful keynote on critical issue of teacher licensing.
Thank you. My apologies to that side. वहाँ से कोई एक तो मुझे कोई नज़र नहीं आ रहा और किसी ने हाथ उठाया तो you can always talk to me.
Yes, you can ask during networking session. Sir, he will be available there. Okay.
जिसका भी सवाल है आप मुझे चाय में पकड़ लीजिएगा.
Thank you very much. We are moving towards the next session, and the next session is related to global partnership for education, which is one of the major collaborator for this conference as well. And the next session is related to different things they are doing right now in education. So I would like to briefly introduce what is Global Partnership for Education and what kind of activities they are doing. KICS EMAP, the Knowledge Innovation Exchange, KICS, Europe, Middle East, North Africa, Asia, and Pacific. KICS EMAP, it's such a huge collaborative initiative supported by the Global Partnership for Education and the International Development Research Center hosted by NORAG at the Geneva Graduate Institute. And this hub facilitates the surfacing, mobilizing of research evidence to inform education policy and planning through activities such as thematic webinars, skills strengthening workshops, and regional conferences. So I request further Dr. Sajid Ali to keep sitting here for moderating this session. And next, the presenters of this session are Dr. Kiran Hashmi. She is from Education Department at Institute of Business Management, IOBM. I request her to please join us on the stage. I further request Dr. Ms. Zahida Batul from PECTA. She is Director, Training and Certification. Madam, please join us on the stage. I further request Dr. Takbir Ali from AKU. Sir, please join us on the stage. And the last presenter, Dr. Zahid Majid from Allama Iqbal Open University. Sir, please join us on the stage.
So, thank you very much. Welcome to this next panel discussion. The other role that I have, I'm a professor at Khan University Institute for Educational Development. I'm also nominated as the moderator for this initiative called GPE KICS EMAP. It's a mouthful. Let me explain what it is. GPE is a funding organization, Global Partnership for Education, which funds even education development. They fund this research initiative, which is called KICS, Knowledge Innovation Exchange. Basically, it's a South-South connection, and I want you to have a look at this map, which shows that the different countries of the South are there. It has created 4 hubs in the South. One is called EMAP, the other one is Africa 21, Africa 19, and KICS Latin America. So Latin America has 5-6 countries in it, Africa has 19 in one hub, another 21. KICS EMAP has around 40 countries, and we are in the EMAP hub. EMAP is E is for Europe, basically Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Asia and Pacific. These are the countries which are part of it. Under that partnership, I would invite you to go and visit and look at the GPE KICS website. There are various things that happen. There are 2 kinds of things that we want to present today. GPE KICS has supported with IDRC some research in Pakistan, It seeks an opportunity to find places where those researches could be disseminated. And so we collaborated with Allama Iqbal Open University and NECTE to make it possible. These are local researchers, so we will present two research out of that. One is by Dr. Zahid Majid, which is already concluded. The second one is ongoing research by Dr. Takbir Ali, so they will present their researches. Then KICS also carry out learning cycles. Learning cycles are kind of professional development programs. So two of our colleagues, Dr. Kiran Hashmi and Dr. Zahida, they were part of two learning cycles. So they will present the outcome of those learning cycles in that. And I've requested that they would try and relate those things with the theme of the conference. So the way we carry out this session would be each panelist will have 10 minutes after the two presentations, Dr. Zahid and Dr. Takbir research presentation. We will have 10 minutes for Q&A. Then we will have two sessions of the learning cycles, Dr. Zahida and Dr. Kiran, and after that we have another 10 minutes for Q&A. And if there are time remains, we will carry on with this thing. So my responsibility as KICS chair in that hat, I'll be moderating and keeping the time. Thank you. So with that, I would first invite Dr. Zahid Majid for presentation of his research.
This was initiative and the opportunity by GP KICS in 2021, where the three countries having the proposal and a research project together, Pakistan, Nepal, and Afghanistan, and that was about inclusion and inclusive education. Most of our researches that's happened with the inclusion and inclusive education with respect to the teachers and teacher education. This was the first time, and it was definitely in line with the national priorities that we have in the country. When we have submitted the proposal to the Economics Division, Government of Pakistan, they're in line with the national priorities. The research was in three countries. That was led by the Open University UK and the lead researcher, Professor Frida, and Deborah, as well as Saraswati, the three members from the Open University UK, and three members from Allama Iqbal Open University, myself, Dr. Nasir, and Dr. Zial Qayyum. So at that time, three partner from Allama Iqbal means researcher. Definitely, the research team is not only limited to the three members there. We have a number of other researchers in the team. And the same, we have the University of Kathmandu, Nepal, and the Canadian Women for Women of Afghanistan. At that time, we have decided that it will be happening in Afghanistan, but because of the regime change, they have shifted the research area from Afghanistan to Pakistan, where we have the Afghan refugees camp schools, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So this is the organogram and structure of the project team that was led by FIT Fit Ed, that is in Philippines, and the global team with the UK Open University, as well as from Alina from Italy, and the three countries team members. So background that I already shared with you, that most of the schools continue to systematically exclude the numbers. That is research findings of different organizations. Global Monitoring Report 2023, as well as UNESCO 2020, has pointed out that there are a number of factors that are having contribution to exclusion of the vulnerable and minorities children from the schools. So school leaders, as we know, the school leaders in Pakistan and the regions, Nepal, as well as Afghanistan, the key person in the schools that is responsible, that has the authority to open and close the doors for the stakeholders, including parents and children. So this time, the research was on the school leaders, that how the school leaders as agents for the change, for inclusion. And that's the project that we have, the main aim and objective that explored how school leaders, means school headmaster, deputy headmasters, agency means initiative to problem solve education inclusion issues can be developed sustainably at scale through collaborative inquiry. I will explain it later on how it is happened, the collaborative inquiry in supported school leader network improvement communities. That's one of the approach that we applied in this research in 3 countries, that how network improvement communities approach can be helpful with the other strategies with open resources and open course that we have developed. This was the consortium of 3 countries, 2021, 2023, but it was extended for 6 months up to 2024, where we involved the school leaders for this research. These are the objectives, and most of the research objectives and study were on the network improvement community approach. That is the model for adapting and implementing the network improvement at scaling approach for school leaders in different contexts across the region mean Afghanistan, Nepal, and Afghanistan. And we also examined the factors that influence the effective, equitable working of network improvement communities for school leaders in different contexts, and to inform policy and practice on the scaling. The 4th one, to build the capacity of the stakeholders, and there are different stakeholders, not limited to the government institutions. We also included the NGOs, INGOs, and private organizations as a stakeholder. The project activities were carried out in 3 phases. The first phase, that was on contextualization. We want to know the actual situation, ground realities. And that was in 2021, 2022. There was about 500 plus schools, leaders were involved from different regions. Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan, including in Pakistan, we have Punjab, Lahore, as well as Islamabad. And the second phase, that we have a collaborative design of the network improvement community model and open course for school leaders. And that open course is on inclusion and inclusive education. But that open course and open resources, not a theoretical course that we mostly having for our school teachers as well as other stakeholders. And the third one, that is the field testing and scaling model that we developed in 2023 and 2024, and that we also having scaling on with the help of different stakeholders. If we go to the contextualization, that is a first phase that is about the global and national context, local context, and school context in the 3 countries. I'm not going to having the details of all these contextualization, that how it is happen, but in context of Pakistan, you can see the country-specific goals of education. I already mentioned how it was in line with the national priorities. And then at the local level, we check it at the district and provincial level, and socioeconomic conditions as well as the infrastructure and climate conditions. School context, roles and responsibilities of the school leaders, as well as the resources available, school leaders, local and professional networking that they have. In the phase 1, we also check the policy brief, the policy documents, literature review, current policies, and the key stakeholder identification. So that was the first phase, contextualization. The second phase of the project and study was about the collaborative design of the NIC model and open course for the school leader. After the phase 1, where we have the survey with the school leader as well as the interviews, we have developed the open course that is based on the findings that we have in this phase 1. So that's the open course is not by adopting any other course from any other organization or institution. The third one, that was about the field testing and scaling model. In this, we have a field data as well as a stakeholder interaction. And both level, we have the 3 levels, the pre-trial, during trial, and post-trial. So when the school leaders were involved in the NIC model as well as in the open course, before the course and before the NIC model's approach, we have interviews with them, and we have the pre-survey from the school leaders. And that was the second phase, where we, at the middle of the course and middle of the network improvement community's duration, we have the second interviews from them, but we don't have the survey tools for the school leaders, because it was a pre-survey and post-survey, but we have checked the school leaders' performance as well as their outcomes of the open course through the interviews. The third, post-trial and post-survey as well as the post-trial interviews with all the school leaders. And as definitely another component of this data collection was observations, when we have the network improvement communities meetings with the school leaders. With the school leaders, we also involved in having the data from the stakeholders through the workshops, evidence cafes, participants observation notes, and the stakeholder meeting facilitators that is the part of this NIC model. School leader communities, you can see here that how it was happened with the network communities with the 8 to 10 school leaders in one group in two different geographic, for example, in Islamabad as well as in Lahore, and same in other countries. They having meetings to discuss their issues that is related to the inclusion and inclusive education that they identify through the problem tree, and then solutions by the PDSA model. That the problem tree is on the cause, problem and effect, as well as the solution is through the plan, do, study, and act model. The support of each network improvement community was with the facilitator, and the facilitators like a tutors that we have in the online courses. So the facilitator is mostly from having the background of inclusion and special education as well as the digital literacy. So those were helpful and facilitate the school leaders over there. The research methodology is in two phases. I already explained the first phase, that was the contextualization and data collection. That we have quantitative data collection and analysis and qualitative both. So the survey as well as the interviews, and then comparative analysis and interpretations. In the phase one, we have 529 school leaders. Semi-structured interviews were about 38 from the 3 countries, and then we also review the documents as well as the policy review and policy briefs. In second phase, I already explained in each country, initial data collection, further means a middle stage data collection, and final data collection. So these were the 3 levels where we have the observations as well as the interviews from the school leaders and stakeholders. The open course that based on the pre-surveys and the phase 1, it is on the 8 modules or 8 units. That is introduction to inclusion and inclusive education, exploring more about inclusion with data, inclusive practice in school, and then how to use the PDSA to solve the issues, and reflection and self-assessment. These are the 3 countries' main findings that we can see that how it is the Nepal having the extra support to the girls during the special days to improve schools attendance, as well as frequent interaction with students and parents, free bus service for children and from school, use of data analysis, and the same that we have because of Afghan refugee schools camps in Pakistan. The data and the analysis shows that they have the issues and problems that's exclusion as well as inclusion, bullying, language of instruction, because they are for a long time in Pakistan, as per the policy, after 5 years, the refugees should follow the curriculum of that country. So the curriculum that they have in the Urdu language, that is the language of instruction. That's a big issue for them for the exclusion. Classrooms, distractions, seating arrangements, and many more. In Pakistan, issues and solutions explored by the school leaders, that's street children, school dropouts, collaboration with parents, teachers, student and religious groups linked to the financial, socioeconomic status from families facing financial crisis. This is the case study, but you can access all these things at the TPD or the GP KICS website. These are the scaling models that we have for the different stakeholders at different levels. This is the scaling model that we suggested for the FGI, that how they can use the NIC model as well as the open course. And the same that another stakeholder, that is a National Commission for Right for Child, that is possible that we are in discussion with them to implement the NIC model as well as the open course for them. But the open course is will be available for all through the Allama Iqbal Open University website. So that is the open source and will be helpful for the different stakeholders as well as the school leaders at open source. These are the last slide of the presentation about the sub-themes of the conference, that how this research will be helpful for the NECTE as well as the research sub-themes the sub-theme revamping of teacher education curriculum, where we have the embedding inclusive education principle in teacher training program, and through open course and learning through practice, that we can connect this research and findings of the research with the NECTE conference sub-theme, but definitely it is already in line with the national priorities of the inclusion and inclusive society. Thank you very much.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Organizer of this event, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to talk about a research study that is not has not been completed, but is a work in progress. This project, research project entitled Delivering Responsive and Inclusive Initial Teacher Education through Design Thinking. This project has been funded by GPE-KICS and is being implemented by a consortium kind of arrangement, including 3 institutions. Is Khan University Institute for Educational Development in Pakistan, and Khan University Institute for Educational Development in East Africa, and University of Cambridge, and Aga Khan Foundation, United Kingdom. As I mentioned, this research has been sponsored by GPE-KICS, and that also has supported another research project, a longitudinal research project. It was launched in 2000 by GPE. Also, this project is known as Schools 2030. Schools 2030 is a longitudinal project that was launched in 2000 by Aga Khan Development Network with support from like-minded organizations and universities. This project is being implemented, School 2030, in 10 countries from 4 continents, including Asia. Here 5 countries, India, Pakistan, and 3 countries from Central Asia. And East Africa, 2 countries from East Africa, 1 from South America, Brazil, and 1 from Europe. They are participating in this School 2030 project. School 2030 project is, in fact, has emerged from the consideration that when these SDGs were launched in 2015, where there was a discussion that that during this period, 15 years is now, we are almost after midway to implementing this SDGs. So we should be able to learn something that is particularly pertinent to developing countries to improve their education system, particularly educational access and equality. That is the SDG Goal 4 is concerned about, particularly in developing countries. So inspired by this project, this KICS funding was received, and the School 2030 project is using the design thinking model. Design thinking is also known as human-centered design. A kind of an approach to solving problem, in fact, that has been used in business, in engineering, in medicine, in so many other fields. But after 19, I think there has been an increasing interest in using this model, the design thinking in education, or in teacher education and professional development for that matter. So the design thinking, very briefly, to explain it, is a model, a kind of a mindset, and a creative approach to solving problems. It's a process that starts with the people you are designing for and ends with solutions that are tailor-made to their needs. the goal of mindset is to help move away from our usual way of thinking and doing to embrace new problem solving and critical thinking approach. In fact, this design thinking is very much focused on problem solving. So problem solving certainly requires a critical thinking. So how using this design thinking approach, critical thinking and a certain set of abilities can be fostered among teachers so they can become really problem solvers. They become creative, particularly in our part of the world, because they are surrounded with many problems. Inside classroom, outside classroom, in the community, in the society. So these are really interconnected. So a very complex environment context is created for teachers. So what we expect to bring about change, to bring about quality in learning. So how we can make those teachers problem solvers, creative. The one way is what this theory of change suggests is developing teacher agency. Agency is a concept that talks about the inherent ability of an individual to work for change. And it's not imparting certain technical vocational skills to teacher through teacher education. So these are some pedagogical techniques you should use in the classroom. But certain situation, working in a very difficult circumstances, teachers need to exercise that agency. So how we can empower teachers to really use their agency to solve so many problems they confront in their effort to bring about change in what they do with their children in the classroom. So this thinking design, I think we are educator, we know we are researcher, the format or template is very similar to action research, but it's more structured and more rigorous kind of process of inquiry, a practitioner inquiry. So it involves at least these, the process, the stages of identifying a problem based on evidence. If we say that, a group of children, 3-4 children in the classroom, they are slow learners. So they have some learning difficulties problems. So first to understand their problems. What are the nature of those problems faced by these children? And then coming up with a solution, designing a solution, and specifically tailoring to this particular problems. So this is launch phase of the problem, then generate and exploring, defining then the problem after you do analysis, collect data, do analysis, then you define your problem and then test. So based on this, I think this research has been proposed that this is in School 2030 is being used in in-service teacher professional development. But in this research, we are interested to use this in pre-service teacher education program. So, so this program is now research is being conducted. We have initiative in collaboration with AIOU Development Network, UK, Cambridge University, and the Institute for Education Development, Karachi, Pakistan, and East Africa, and 3 countries. The objective is, of course, is to increase knowledge about how initial teacher education can be reformed. We talked about for these last 2 days. What are the problem issues with our teacher, the quality of teacher education, and all that. So how we can really help improve the quality of initial teacher education. So this is the purpose. So the intention is to generate credible evidence on what model of initial teacher education would be more effective. So if that is demonstrated with adequate evidence, then the next stage is policy kind of advocacy. So scaling up a model that is demonstrated, how to scale it up. So where I think we would be looking forward to work very closely with NECTE at national level, and then provincial level like STEDA and other organization. They are, kind of regulatory bodies. So that is the intention. So these are the questions we are trying to explore, is what knowledge can be generated, how knowledge can be mobilized for policy, advocacy, and scaling up the intervention, and how school 30 design can help develop the teacher agency that is important. Mixed method research is used, surveys, interviews, observation, documentary analysis, and all that. So a variety of data sources are used in this research. It's using participatory action research design. So the status of this research is training and development of tools. We develop, a set of tools with the help of Cambridge University, data collection tools, and the course design and execution. We have designed a participatory action research course for our 1.4-year B.Ed students. They are our participant. We have 18 students, 2 male, 16 female students. They are our primary research participants. Then also we are working with educators and other stakeholders in this research. So ethical approval has been received, baseline data collection has been completed, practicum research is part of this intervention. It should start sometime in October, November. And the post-intervention data collection is also the next phase, or where we are going to conduct also some ethnographic post-graduation observations with the participant. If they, after their 1.5-year B.Ed, they go to classroom, how they perform there. So we would be doing classroom observation and all that. So knowledge products would develop policy brief, a white paper, whatsoever, publication, monograph, and all that. I think this would be our knowledge products. And gender equity inclusion is going to be an integral part of this research, that gender equity and inclusion. We would try our level best to really pay attention to this very important aspect of including gender perspective in our research. Thank you very much.
For Q&A for these two researchers, we have 10 minutes.
My name is Dr. Riyad, and my question is that Dr. Majid said they will incorporate the 21st scale in curriculum. So my question is, have you identified these scales, and how will you integrate these 21st scale in teacher curriculums?
So that's a NIC, Network Improvement Communities approach, and the open course that on inclusion. So these are the two major outputs and knowledge generations that we recommended for the school leaders rather than the school classroom teachers. Classroom teacher research is with Dr. Takbir.
Okay, may I ask Dr. Sahid, while others are thinking, you talked about professional networks that were created as part of that research. What is the situation of those networks now? Are they still active, working?
Thank you very much. That's output of the research that we have. The professional network that we have with the stakeholders, especially with the government institutions, the first one is the Directorate General of Special Education, where we have presented and collaborated with them. And we shared our network improvement communities and open source course. The Secretary of Special Education, they formally asked the Allama Iqbal University team to put up the action plan that how they can implement and use this approach, network improvement communities, as well as the open course for the school leaders. So we have submitted the action plan, and they are implementing this, these two approaches, the open course to be used for the training of the school leaders, as well as the network improvement communities during the open course. So the first stakeholders and professional network that we have out of this project. The second one that I already mentioned and scaling model has presented on the slide, that is with the federal government education institutions, that is mostly with the cantonment boards and Pakistan Army schools, colleges, and institutions, where we also having the discussion, and we also suggested that how they can implement and use this approach, as well as the open course. The third one I shared with you peoples, the scaling model, TBT scaling model, that is with the NCRC, National Commission for Right for Child. And the fourth one that is in discussion, and we already use this open course with the Site Savers International organizations, that is the Pakistan chapter and Pakistan office. We also develop our open source or inclusive education course for the Federal College of Education, where they have the approach of network improvement community as well as the open course in their compulsory course in the B.Ed program. So this is how the stakeholders having professional networks use the output and the knowledge generated through this research project.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. I am Dr. Muhammad Tanveer Afzal from Allama Iqbal Open University. My question is about design thinking. So your claim is that design thinking is like a problem-solving approach. And there are a number of tools which you have mentioned that data will be collected by using these tools. The first question is how data from different tools will be analyzed to generate single finding. And the second one is that when the design thinking will be implemented, what you think that how many factors it will affect, whether it's only the achievement or the problem solving skill, or whether the other factors as well.
Thank you. Very important question. I think your first question is about design thinking, how it helps to solve problem. So design thinking is a kind of approach. It involves a kind of a process very much focused on evidence-based kind of analysis of problem. First, you analyze the problem, and then you come up with solutions. Solutions, there would be, for one problem, there would be multiple solutions, not one. I think sometimes what happens is we have problem, we try to solve it, but maybe our solution is not really tailored to that particular problem. So what kind of solution that best fits that problem? I think that is most of the time, and teachers, we educators, I think we need to work on that. So this is about solving, and the other part is data collection. Is in this research, because we are using experimental kind of design here, intervention-based research. Intervention-based research, I think what is important is to have baseline evidence first. So before intervention, what was the situation? So you need to have information data on that. This was pre-intervention scenario, situation. Then you intervene, you do something to bring about some improvement or some change to solve a problem. Then after you again collect information, data, how the intervention worked. So then you try to compare the pre-intervention, post-intervention data, and you compare, you analyze that, and you measure the change that has occurred or the improvement that has happened. So, and then you discuss the significance or the measurement of the change, how big the change. For example, student achievement. You refer, I think everything what we talk about in education, any intervention, any program, any policy intervention, everything, after all, it should be translated into the bottom line outcome, that is student learning. Other than, I think, is of no use. So here we are going to make that connection, that if this thinking design is helpful to improve teacher, agency or skills, pedagogical, whatsoever, that should be demonstrated in terms of student improved learning outcomes. So classroom observations are there, student tests would be there. So all that sort of data is collected. Thank you.
We have 3 hands. There was a lady who was here. May I just take all these 3 questions if you could be very quick with your questions? So there was this lady here, and then second one is you, and third one is you. So we grab all those 3 questions. Who was the lady who was here? Yes, ma'am. If you can ask questions very quickly, and then we will ask the panelists to collectively respond. And then we have to move to the next panelist.
I want to ask, you can say inclusive initial teacher education, okay? You say inclusive initial teachers education. What does its meaning?
Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Sir, my question is from Dr. Zahid. He told us that during his 3 years research, he worked on the inclusive education. So my question is, how the open source facilitate, because this all program was designed for the leaders, as you told us. So how open source facilitates the students in the school who are actually facing the problem of inclusivity in the class?
I have the same question for the same topic. I feel that as being a teacher, as a leader, and now as a teacher trainer as well, I feel inclusivity is something that we are adding on in a teacher's shoulder, whereas inclusivity can be seen as more compassionate and through empathy lens for the teacher and for the student as well. Because if we are adding that burden in B.Ed course or in a classroom, expecting the teacher to, be inclusively teaching, don't you think that is something adding a burden into a teacher's load?
Thank you. So we have 3 questions for inclusivity and 1 question for Dr. Takbir. So Dr. Zaid, if you can respond to 3 questions collectively, and then.
Okay, thank you very much. As we already mentioned about that in the policy brief, that the inclusive education that is with the constitutions as well as with the laws. For example, 25A say every child have the right of education, and that's the responsibility of the state and the government. So we have the 25A. We have different slogans, education for all and all these things. So inclusion concept is already there. And fortunately or unfortunately in Pakistan, we don't have early intervention, early assessment. After the birth of the child, we don't have early intervention. So the children and the kids having the mild and moderate any issue or means the sensory matters, that is visual, hearing, as well as intellectual, they are already with you people. They are already within the mainstream schooling education. I'm not saying that is the only factor of the dropout, but there are many those who are with the mild and moderate, and the teachers are not able to identify them and to accommodate their special needs in the classroom. They might be dropout, they might be a slow learner, they might be a repeaters. So there is no burden on the teacher because the teacher is already doing this, and the research of this, the finding of these researchers are proven that more than 10% of your classrooms kids are already with the special needs.
Thank you.
In any form or any picture. So every means course of your B.Ed programs either is a curriculum, either is a classroom discipline, or the lesson plans. That's all addressed to the inclusion or the individuality of the child.
Thank you. So, sorry, I have to just be mindful of the time. Dr. Takbir, if you can.
Okay, I think the question is about initial teacher education. Initial teacher education, we refer to, the training taken by the beginner, kind of not prospective teacher. They people who want to become teacher, so they, take a qualification like now these days, BS or B.Ed, and like those kind of qualifications. These are call pre-service or initial teacher education programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we move to the next part of the session. I would invite Dr. Zahida to share the findings. Just for the audience who have joined late, GPE KICS carry out two kinds of work. One is research, which has already been presented. The second is the learning cycles. So Dr. Zahida Batul is going to share for 10 minutes, then another 10 minutes for Dr. Kiran, and then 10 minutes for Q&A. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Zahida.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sajid. So I'm going to share the work that we did for our policy brief for Learning Cycle 6 with the support of KICS EMAP. And for this purpose, our topic was to strengthen women's leadership in school systems and then a pathway to quality teacher education. Basically, what is Learning Cycle 6? Learning Cycle 6 is GPE's KICS EMAP initiative that focused on gender equity in education as well as enhancing leadership roles for women in school systems. And it also has actionable strategies like quality teacher education with women's leadership by working on systematic, cultural and institutional factors impacting female school leadership in Punjab. And focusing on these things, we worked on this policy brief, and our policy brief was about breaking barriers and empowering change through women leadership. So what was the composition of our team? As in learning cycles, there are different members from different areas of Punjab or Pakistan which make up a team. For this team, Learning Cycle 6 for Punjab team, since I am representing Punjab team, so we were total 6 members. I am Zahida Batul, as you can see that it's written PECTA. PECTA is Punjab Education Curriculum Training and Assessment Authority. That is a new organization that has been established by merging 3 different departments. Punjab Examination Commission, Punjab Curriculum and Textbook Board, and then Qaid-e-Azam Academy for Educational Development. These were 3 different departments, and now they have been merged into one institution, that is PECTA. And that is part of School Education Department, Government of the Punjab. Then there was Ruxana Asim. She was from British Council, Pakistan. Allama Bibi was education planning expert from UNESCO. Then Urwa Naeem, Pakistan Coalition for Education. Faizan Ayub, Education Department. He was also from Education Department. And then Atif Ali Mirza, he was from LEWS, and he was Director Academics and Training. So what was the objective, scope and methodology of our this study? So our objective was to examine barriers and then the opportunities for women leadership. Since we were talking about the leadership, since morning, so basically in our policy brief, we focused on that what are the barriers that stop the women in taking up the leadership positions, and then how can we enable them, and what sort of enablers are there that can support the women or the female leaders to join these leadership positions. And our scope was the public sector school education department of Punjab. And what we did for this, we consulted different literature that was about women leadership and how can improving the women leadership can enhance the quality education and work towards teacher quality education. Then we read different policies regarding this, and then we had field insights, and we did different sort of consultations with different stakeholders in this regard. So our key findings were that women in Punjab in school education departments, although the teachers are there, in more number in teaching education, if we, talk about the teachers, but when it comes to the higher position, the leadership positions, the number reduces. And the women underrepresented in senior leadership positions, and then institutional and cultural barriers are there. There is work-life balance that hinder the women to join such kind of leadership positions. They do not have enough support while they are in the offices and they are performing their duties. They have to stay late in their offices but there isn't any support to look after if they have young children. So there should have some sort of daycares for them where they can through which they can get some sort of support. And then our another key finding was that after providing the mentorship and training, we can improve this position, and we can enhance the number of women in the leadership position. And then during this study, we also found that there are the cases in which we found that if there are certain schools or certain projects which are run by or led by women, they show greater results. And I'll talk about different projects, like in Punjab, since I am representing the Teacher Education Institute as well, Teachers Training Institute as well. So we worked on different projects with on about the leadership, and we found in their school leadership development program, there were the female head teachers who were performing better than the other school leaders. And then we had another project that was instruction leadership. Again, that was for the head teachers. Both male and female head teachers were there. They were part of that initiative. But we noticed that the results of the female schools were better than the male schools. And we had head teacher excellence awards as well. And most of the women were the awardees for that, that initiative. So this shows that if we give the opportunities to the head teachers, to the female leaders, or or whosoever are leading the schools, they can perform better. And if we are going to give them the opportunities and these enablers, they can perform better than the other colleagues. And then as you can see, women-led schools show higher performance. I've already talked about that. These were the key findings. And now how improving the school leadership or the women leadership in schools, we can see that how they can support quality teacher education. So the leadership, when the teacher is or the head is there, she is leading the school and she is creating the school culture. So if the head is empowered, then she can create a good school culture over there. That then supports in prioritizing the inclusion of all the teachers in mentorship by providing them the opportunities to have their skills. And then it can also strengthen the teacher development programs. She can ensure them, she can guide them how to work towards their own professional development. And then in this way she can create more empowered leaders through the mentorship. As it is said that when there is a teacher, if the head is supporting that teacher can become the leader in the future as well. So during that policy brief, we had certain key messages for the policy makers, and they were that embed gender responsive policies in education framework, then ensure equal access to leadership development, then promote mentorship and leadership networks, then allocate resources for training and capacity building, then track progress with gender disaggregated data. If we talk about Punjab, the recent initiatives taken by government of the Punjab, now we can see the greater number of women leaders in the leadership positions. Like there are chief executive officers, but in the past, most of the leaders or the CEOs were male. But after this initiative of government of the Punjab, now we can see the good representation of female in that leadership positions as well. So there are a few recommendations and way forward, that we need to expand leadership training, we need to institutionalize gender quotas for leadership roles, then we need to partner with NGOs for local leadership development, and then we need to establish professional networks for women leaders, and then we need to provide workplace support like daycares and flexible hours for female leaders. And women leadership is essential for quality education. We are, since morning we are talking about quality teacher education, teacher licensing, teacher certification. So if the head is empowered, she can further improve the quality of teaching in the schools. And then empowerment enhances student and community outcomes as well. Then systemic reforms needed to close gender gap. This is also the part of our conclusion, that we need to have such kind of systemic reforms. And at the end, I would like to thank our KICS partners. And Dr. Sajid, thank you very much for engaging us in such wonderful activities. And then I would like to thank my team members who worked with me on this policy brief from Punjab, Pakistan. Thank you very much.
This is an initiative actually that was started by GPE KICS, as Dr. Sajid has very rightly explained what GP is doing. I was part from the Sindh team. More or less the idea, because this time around KICS Learning Cycles theme was about women leadership in schools particularly and in academia. So more or less the kind of ideas that Dr. Zahida has shared from Punjab, Sindh also has a similar, more or less a similar kind of an approach. Though this is a policy brief, the basic identification of the problem that was done has led to a policy brief, and that has already been submitted. So what I'm going to share with you is not something different in terms of the context of women leadership, but a slight variation in how different provinces are looking at the support or the mechanisms that we have developed for women. So starting from here, KICS Learning Cycle, as I've told you, that this time around it was about underrepresentation of females, women in the school leadership particularly, and of course in academia. And the second area that they have picked up was that what policy and practice changes are needed to correct the imbalance. And that is the reason why the briefs that we have written post this research is about how can we improve this representation that has already been identified. So the team that we have there at SIN, it was me, then we have Dr. Nasima from IIT, Dr. Ali Nawab, who's an educational specialist and from Sakai BA. We had Lareb, who was a Pakistan Coalition for Education representative, and Temur, who was an MPhil scholar from AKU. This was the composition of the Sindh team. Moving from here, the national moment, when we started looking at the problem, and of course the problem was pre-identified, we came to know that there is an education emergency while looking at the policies and the practices that are there. The teacher licensing particularly, the curriculum reform, and the leadership education was central to this transformation that we are talking about, enhancing female leadership in schools and academia. This particular study that we did is to identify not only why female leaders are so less, but also to project what can be done through policy initiatives. Moving from here, this is a little pie graph that we have developed in terms of the statistics. In Sindh, we have 40,978 public schools. Now, this data that I'm sharing with you does not have the private schools or the publicly owned school. This is just particularly to the public school data that is available by the government. Within that, the female leaders who are available is 5,499. Only 5,500 teachers are there who are female leaders. This is also the available data, and the statistics are sitting on the website. We have lifted it from there, and this is the data of 2024. The overall representation of females in the overall academia is 13%, and female representation is hardly 13%. This is basically the gender disparity, if you can see. Now, if you look at this chart, we have particularly not added the male-led schools. Reason, as per the policy there, again, in a boys' school, a female cannot be the principal. But in a female school, a male can be the principal. So that is the reason why in this you can only see girls' schools and co-education schools and not male schools. Moving from here, why school leadership matters? Why are we talking so much about school leadership? Because school leaders are the one who not only drives the school, they have the vision that they implement. The vision comes in from the policies that they have, the vision comes in from the practices they have, and also the culture that they create. Understanding of the culture is key and central to the leaders. And when we come to female leaders particularly, In the previous presentation also, Dr. Zahida mentioned that the schools perform better when we have female leaders. Here, research proven, because we studied a number of papers while we were doing the study, the schools that have female leaders have improved school enrollment, retention, and academic performance. They serve as role models. There's a gender shift from schools to communities. They bring people together, attendance is better, and they create a more supportive environment for children, specifically for the students who are studying there. Specifically when it comes to teacher education and policy reforms, and of course the licensing that we are talking about, unless women are not considered equally to men as leaders, and unless their role is not appreciated and acknowledgement, the shift that we are thinking of would actually be incomplete. The policy gaps, because we studied a number of policies as shared in the previous one, we found out there are no gender responsive policies. Teaching, licensing, and education, though it's recently started, but we have not taken the gender dynamics into our account. Leaders' roles are not incentivized, and specifically gender inclusive terms are not stated in the policies. Of course, mentorship, because we do a lot of mentorship and coaching, specifically when it comes to school leaders, the mobility, the work-life integration are the missing areas. Picking up these policy gaps that we had, there were three major areas that we identified. The first, of course, was cultural barriers, and we all know the kind of patriarchal systems we are into, the kind of restrictions we have, the kind of mobility restrictions and other approaches. The second is policy and institutional barriers. Some of the policy gaps were discussed there, and some of them were discussed further. And the last, but for us the most important, were the structural gaps. Women often confined to girls' schools. I just tell you that in a male school, only a male can be a principal, but not the female. Similarly, absence of gender-specific education, mentoring, and promotion pathways is something that we took it as our main core area for the study. This is actually what we thought of, that how to convert the barriers into enablers. And those enablers we picked up as three major ones. Of course, mentorship and education is something, the first one. Policy reforms that we are working on and the policy brief that we wrote, and of course, community support to change the restrictions, mobility enhancement, and of course, greater participation of women. These three enablers were looked at, and how the enablers are further taken into account is through four mediations. The first mediation, of course, is about integrating gender-focused leadership. The second is about designating quotas or targets for female leaders, funding mentoring and mobility support programs, ensuring co-ed school leaders is not male only, because males we cannot penetrate much, but at least for the co-ed schools where there is a majority of male principals, female leaders can also be appointed equally. And institutionalizing case studies from successful women leaders. These are the four areas that we have picked up from the enablers, that we are proposing policy reforms in licensing, we are proposing policy reforms in curriculum, we are proposing policy reforms in gender, and we are proposing policy reforms in the career pathways. For the four areas that I've just shared with you, the ideas that we have written in the policy brief is to enhance, within the teaching licensing, is to enhance leadership competencies, and gender focus within the process. Within the curriculum reform, we have proposed to integrate leader and gender inclusive modules. Within the gender equity, we have included indicators for inclusion of genders. And of course, towards the last one, which is career pathways, we are proposing formalizing career progression for female educators exactly on the pattern, the way our male educators are promoted. Towards the end, I would just like to say that if you really want to have empowered school leaders, and if you want to inspire, transform, and uplift the communities, we need to give them equal participation the way we are doing it to men. Gender parity is something we are looking for other than gender disparity. Thank you very much, everybody. This is all from the team of Sindh. Thank you. And Dr. Sajid, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. With pleasure. Now we have 10 minutes for Q&A for the last two speakers, Dr. Kiran and Dr. Zahida.
Could you please tell us on what evidence you can say it? Can we generalize your study? And if study has a strong evidence, then we can give more opportunity to women to lead the school, and we can give more other assignment to the male.
Thank you. There's a question. So maybe if we can take 2 or 3 questions and then you can respond collectively.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for all those four very powerful presentations. Truly inspiring. I think all four are very well connected. I will direct my question to Dr. Zahida and Dr. Kiran both. You know, you develop these policy briefs. So then what? What is happening here? You know, after you develop the policy briefs, they've been uploaded on whatever website. So how are you seeing, envisioning the change in policy? So what is the way forward? First question. And second question is about, you know, the work that you did with women leaders. I'm just wondering how the question of agency, which Dr. Takbir earlier picked up on working with teachers, agency and empowerment was actually elaborated, was, you know, unpacked by the women leaders who you worked with. So, no, how did it really play it out the way you felt that women were better leaders? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I take 2 more questions and then you can respond? Ji, please.
Sir, my question is from Dr. Zahida. When she was discussing that there is a gender-based disparity among school education department in Punjab, so I will say that Punjab school education department is already distributed among male and female sections schools, and all male have a male head and all female schools have a female head. So don't she think that the evidence is missing from her presentation, that how she will saying that that the female heads are less in numbers than the male heads, and why we are discussing that a policy should be developed which is create gender-based disparity among male and females.
Thank you.
My question is about to Madam Kiran. You discuss in our slides that kicks help shift gender norms within the school communication. How it is and how can you explain that this work?
Thank you. The last question from the gentleman in the front.
Sir, my question is, in my humble opinion, in our teacher education programs, whatever its nature may be, it is generally believed that more focus is laid on instructional competencies, content knowledge, art of content delivery, etc. We can say that more focus is laid on the student's IQ, and very less or almost no focus is laid on emotional, social, and psychological aspects of education, which is equally important, I think, for both male and female sectors. So, your take on it, please.
So first question was, what is the evidence of when I talked about the high performance of the female schools? Yes, sir. We, as I talked about different projects that we had in our teachers training programs. So during those projects, we noticed that the participation of the females, of the schools which were led by the female, and then the performance. That varies from the male schools. The female leaders outperformed, and their schools, as Dr. Kiran has also talked about, the enrollment was increased, there was retention, they had good relationship with the community, and then the community supported those schools as well. So all these are evidences which we have with us. Then if we talk about the results of the schools, then there is also evidence that those schools with the female leaders, as compared to the male schools, they show good results. Although there are male schools which also show the good results, but we are particularly talking about the leaders, leadership positions by the female leaders. So they are performing better if they are given the opportunities. This was question number one. And secondly, question number two, sir, you asked about that. Yes, in school education department, we have separate male and female schools. But we are talking about the leadership positions when it comes to particularly chief executive officers positions, the senior leadership positions. I talked about the senior leadership positions that when there are, there is a big number of female schools, but in the senior leadership positions, we have, most of them are male leaders. And that's why the female leaders we do not see those female leaders in those senior leadership positions. And I've also talked about the initiative of Government of the Punjab, that now Government of the Punjab School Education Department is also encouraging the female leaders in the leadership positions. You might have seen more CEOs, Chief Executive Officers, in positions by the female. In previous practice, there were hardly 1 or 2 females out of 36 districts, but now we can see the number is increasing, and that's why it is showing that if you give the opportunities to the females, they perform very well. And then as Dr. Kiran has already talked about it, that if there are male schools, the heads are male, and if there are female schools, the heads are female. But in the heads leadership positions, those schools which are in the far-flung areas, the head teachers, they don't want to join, so that designation or that post is given to some junior teacher. So we do not find the proper designated head over there in that school. That's the reason that I talked about the leadership position. And then so you talked about the Dr. Kiran talked about gender parity, not gender disparity. So I guess that was some misunderstanding. We talked about gender parity, that we should give the female leaders the same, proportion of having that professional development and the leadership positions as well. Thank you. And sir, online question was there as such.
Why male schools
yes,
are not performing as good?
I don't know what's the reason that why don't they, take part in such kind of activities, or why don't they perform? They since it's a big number, and when we talk about the participation, so female take part in such kind of activities more actively, and then they want to perform in a better way. Thank you,
Dr. Kiran.
Just want to add one thing, because this came out in one of the study in the data. For example, why male schools are not performing better than female. It was not a direct response to this, but the response that came in is that males have been into leadership position for the longest time ever. So they're quite immune to the system. They're quite immune to the processes that are there. But as female leaders are recently been given the opportunity to explore, they are more passionate, they're more committed, they want to explore, and there's also a niche that they want to create in the field. And that is the reason why, if we now compare the performance of male-led schools and female-led schools, female are putting in 4 times greater effort to run. And there are a number of studies that have been conducted recently, and if you read them, and they're, by the way, local studies, if you study them, you'll find ample evidence that shows that how females are taking decisions. There are actually 3 areas where they're really performing well. The first, of course, is goal orientation. The second is decision making, and the third is human relations. Now, coming to the question which one of the students asked about the communities, it's the same process. When it comes to human relations, again, because this is a policy brief, so we were supposed to be presenting what we have added to the policy based on the identification of the problems. So one of the areas where women leadership is really making a niche is human relations, bringing people together. Women tend to have this nature of socializing better than males. So when it comes to communities, when it comes to parents, when it comes to stakeholders, when it comes to communication, women tend to be better. And of course, there are a number of studies that are there that present. So that is the reason why when it comes to community participation, a female leader proves to be better. Secondly, within the rural setting, because you see, when we look at the data that I have shared with you is from SIN, so when you look at it from the rural divide, of course, we do have this urban and rural divide. Within the rural setting, for a woman to make her mark is not that easy. So one most important aspect that the woman uses as her communication skills as a leader. So that also brings a lot of people together and the school blossoms. That's one area. To what Dr. Dilshad said, Dr. Dilshad herself is a gender expert and we have learned a lot from her. So Dr. Dilshad, we have actually worked on the policy brief. It has recently been submitted and it is under review, and post the policy briefs, it would be policy advocacy, of course. And if you really look at the trajectory past 3 to 5 years, specifically not within the private sector, but the public sector, there is an increase in women participation across. And putting it through the policy actually gives the nation or the schools a direction to set. So this is something that we are already working on, and this is one step towards contributing the wall that we are working for.
Thank you very much. Looking at the time, I think we should all say it's my time to conclude. I think we should appreciate KICS for the opportunity they provided for carrying out research, and I think Dr. Zahid Majid presented a very useful research which was multi-country, focusing on the networks and how the networks can promote inclusivity. Dr. Takbir talking about design thinking. I think inclusion of gender, inclusion of special needs seems to be the dominant theme across gender and the two elements that have been talked about. Very interesting questions. And I think there are lessons for the teacher education programs, especially from the perspective of inclusivity, especially from the perspective of problem solving, design thinking, and of course, having women in leadership positions. That's all from my side. Thank you for the audience. Thank you for the panelists for being here and having this kind of very live and active discussion. Over to you, Dr. Tuba.
Okay. Thank you very much. Adding to Dr. Kiran's regarding the different studies just administered by KICS EMAP in the region of Pakistan, we have displayed some of the brochures on the electronic display screens, and you can find the QR codes and you can just find about these studies. So thank you very much, and I'm also thankful to Dr. Sajid Ali for moderating the session on behalf of KICS EMAP and representing them, and all the speakers representing KICS EMAP. Thank you very much. Now it's time to present souvenirs and shields to our participants on the stage. So I request Professor Dr. Nasir Mahmood, Vice Chancellor, Allama Iqbal Open University, to please join us on the stage. I request Conference Chair and Conference Co-Chair to please join us on the stage for presenting the souvenirs to our guests.
It was Aristotle for the first time who talked about praxis. Praxis simply means that you know what you are thinking and what you are making. The action should be informed action. The action should be socially engaged and informed action. And then we come to the 19th century and we look at the Karl Marx contribution, where the same praxis takes another form, and he calls it revolutionary action, an action that changes or transforms self and the society. So just look at how praxis is taking different shapes. In Karl Marx, is a revolution. In Aristotle, it was kind of ethical part was more kind of dominant. And then we came across a very interesting book. Some of you, where is Abbas sitting? Yeah. Um, Deschooling Society, a small book by Ivan Illich, and he talks about a knowledge which should emancipate us from the cruel institutions. So he talks about a certain kind of knowledge that frees us. And then comes another very important figure with a very important book, Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And he talks about a knowledge which is linked with action. And his book became so popular, and I think the rulers didn't like and books were burnt on the roads. But he was the person who totally changed the objective of education. He believed that education's objective is to bring transformation at societal level. And then comes another very interesting book, that is A Reflective Practitioner by Donald Schon, Schon, for the students who are sitting here. When that book came, I think I again remember my Karachi days. We were so excited that here is a person who is talking about something very interesting, reflection in action. That you are thinking while you are doing. So it's not separate, that content and lesson plan and then job is done. No. While you are teaching, you are on your toes and you are thinking. And after, Sean comes Schulman, who actually came up with this very interesting term, PCK, pedagogical content knowledge, that talks about how content and pedagogy, they get together and something is added to this to make it alive. And that added thing is reflection. Right? And then, in the contemporary times, we come across works of Bell Hooke and Henry Giroux. And all these people are, and Michael Apple, of course, they profess the critical pedagogy. The pedagogy that is aimed at bringing transformation at self-level and at societal level. And it's very important to compare it with traditional pedagogy, which is in vogue in our mainstream schools. That pedagogy, that education aims at conformity. Whatever teacher says is correct, and you have to repeat after the teacher, and you have to reproduce that in the examination. This critical pedagogy says that objective of education is not conformity, it's the other way around. It is to encourage students to ask questions. It is linked with change at both levels, at societal level and at self level. And finally, I think I should stop here. Finally, I would like to refer to 2-3 issues which, as a teacher educator, I have experienced. That in our teacher education programs, there is an obvious disconnect between theory and practice. Right? Either we are emphasizing just theory, or we are emphasizing just a set of strategies. Second, the kind of research which is popular in education is testing of theory. And the assumption is it is just theory that informs practice. Right? Sometimes it does, but sometimes the practice informs theory as well. That, whatever you do, you come to a certain theory. And finally, I think one biggest issue which I find in being myself as a teacher educator, that we do not do what we profess. For instance, if in curriculum you talk about punctuality, right? That punctuality is something very good, and you yourself come late, 5 minutes. This hidden curriculum is more powerful than the stated curriculum. And finally, I think while we are talking about curriculum, we need to go out of this very short and sometimes misleading notion of curriculum, that curriculum is just a document. And that was the basis of the single national curriculum, that if we change this document, education would be equal. That is not the case. I think the contemporary or vibrant view of curriculum is that curriculum is not just a document. Curriculum is the interaction of teacher with textbooks, with students, with assessment system, and with school milieu. Because it's the teacher, whatever he or she says becomes curriculum. Whatever he or she does becomes a curriculum. So I think if you ask me, what is one thing we need to do about curriculum is that we need to empower our teacher, that he becomes a reflective practitioner, and then he or she should be able to expand, enrich, and empower any curriculum, any given curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us here, and welcome you to the panel discussion.
We added a course for reflective practices and critical thinking. Unfortunately, that did not find space in the existing BA, so it was put for the secondary. A course that is a feminine course should have been our core teaching process should have started with that course. I have done this in my college and I found very good results. So thank you, Dr. Shahid, for reminding us. Reconceptualization, reflective practices. So that was the teachers have to reflect on their practices, and we deliberately added action research as a project towards the end and not thesis. But unfortunately, I still feel that there are universities and colleges that are doing generic research pieces, not thesis but projects, so they give them a lot of time to work on different methods. So this is something we need to really redo and go why action research was put as a part of our program and why reflective practices is so important. So now coming back to PCK, Dr. Pratt has given a very good theoretical understanding, historical understanding how this grew. But for me, I would say that a lot of changes over since things are not getting across. So PCK comes out as a result of the teacher's reflection. So PCK cannot happen unless the teacher is reflective. That is my contribution, but I will stop here.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I just want to add here that what kind of changes we need in the curriculum to fulfill all these dreams. We are just, adding.
Who would like to answer?
Yes. Do you want to add something? Otherwise, we will move.
I just wanted to say, madam, that unfortunately, the way I've seen the new BA curriculum, especially for 1.5, it's quite depressing. Why do we teach methods of teaching as a separate course? Does it make sense? Then it becomes theory. How can I learn a method when I don't know what subject I'm applying it to? So that's the course that needs to be redundant. It should be integrated into the pedagogical courses. And I agree with Dr. Saab that we must bring a course on making teachers think and reconceptualize the whole process of teaching, learning, and assessment.
Thank you. Sir, adding to the same question, I just want that to fulfill the current needs, instructional needs specifically, if we see that the AdTech skills which are required for to a teacher.
We had a master trainer training in our university, and we introduced the concept of reflective practice there. I, being the director operation of their teacher training program, I went to Athakta, a Sajawal district, and I went to a school where grade 4 students were studying. And those were studying from a teachers, being trained by our teacher educators. Those were trained by our leading institution. So I just inquired, sheer because of my curiosity, that what you learn and how you learn. The guy answered, this 4 साल जो चौथी जमात का बच्चा answered me, and right away they were teaching mathematics. Today we learn reconceptualization. And I was stunned कि जैसा टीचर एजुकेटर्स को पढ़ाया गया था, सजावट में जाके उन्होंने वही मॉड्यूल डिलीवर किया. You were talking about critical thinking, you were talking about reflective practice, and look how we delivered that module of reflective practice, that verbatim, that module was delivered at grade 4 mathematics class. اور وہ جو آپ باتیں کرتے ہیں کہ بھائی سو کالڈ لرنر سینٹرڈ اور فلانا فلانا, وہ سب کی سب ور وینشڈ. یو سی, اگر ہم کو دیکھنا ہے, if we need to basically think about that what is needed and how we are going to restructure our teacher education program, then we need to understand that in which age we are living. And we need to understand that you see the concept of teacher education has transformed is in itself drastically. فار ایگزامپل, ہمیں اب ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کو لرنر سینٹر پرسپیکٹو سے سمجھنے کی ضرورت ہے, اور یہ بہت کرٹیکل بات ہے. if we will not be able to understand the epistemological framework of our learning milieu and how learner learn, we will not be able to structure the teacher education curriculum the way we are supposed to structure. یہ conceptual fallacy ہے which we are making. We need to understand, is knowledge is something which is out there for learner, or is it within ourselves, or is it a dialectical expression of a learner interacting with the world external to him. اگر ہم اس synthesis کو سمجھ سکیں تو ہم philosophically teacher education کی چیز کو سمجھ پائیں گے. دوسری بات, ڈاکٹر صاحب has rightly pointed out, تم نے بھی پہلے خان میں یہ بات کی کہ وی آر لیونگ ان اے ڈیجیٹل ورلڈ. تو ایک طرف ٹرانسفارمیشن ہو رہی ہے کانسیپچوئل لرنر سینٹر والی, دوسری طرف جو ٹرانسفارمیشن آ رہی ہے وہ آ رہی ہے ڈیجیٹل ٹیکنالوجی کے ایڈوانسمنٹ والی. وی آر لیونگ ان اے ورلڈ آف آرٹیفیشیل انٹیلیجنس. وی آر لیونگ ان اے ورلڈ ویئر ٹیچر بائی دیم سیلوز جو کر رہے ہیں وہ یہ کر رہے ہیں کہ جاتے ہیں چیٹ جی پی ٹی پہ کویشچنس لکھتے ہیں گریڈ 4 کے اور لے کر آ جاتے ہیں. یو سی, یہ آرٹیفیشیل انٹیلیجنس بذات خود ایک اپرچونٹی بھی ہے اور ایک سمجھو دماغ کو بند کرنے والی کوشن بھی ہے کہ کیا ہم آرٹیفیشیل انٹیلیجنس کے تھرو بچے کو پرام دینا, کویشچن کرنا سکھا سکتے ہیں یا نہیں سکھا سکتے, یا ہم آرٹیفیشیل انٹیلیجنس کے تھرو بچے کی تھنکنگ ہی کلوز کرنا سکھا رہے ہیں. دیر وی نیڈ ٹو ان فیکٹ ڈرا اے لائن اور ڈرا این انڈرسٹینڈنگ کہ ہم کرنے کو کیا جا رہے ہیں, کہ ہمارا بچہ, ہمارا ٹیچر, آج آپ کسی سے بھی لے لو, when I have seen all your documents, most of them were AI generated. I don't mind that they are AI generated, but where is the context? Where is that so-called inverted comma mein I is in there? So that we need to understand that our originality lie in originality of a learner. If we will fail to understand or address this issue of in our teacher education program, we may be, in fact, after 5 saal baad dobara we will be sitting again and we will be talking the same thing. So teacher education ke liye sabse important cheez ye hai, conceptually we need to understand that we have to follow an epistemological framework of how a child learn. ہم سیکھتے کیسے, اگر ہم یہ سیکھ لیں, اور پھر دوسرا آتا ہے ہم نے سیکھنا کیوں ہے اور سیکھنا کس لیے. یہ آپ کا ایتھیکل پرسپیکٹو بھی ڈیفائن کرے گا یا آپ کی نالج کنسٹرکشن بھی ڈیفائن کرے گا کہ آپ سیکھ کیوں رہے ہیں اور سیکھتے کیسے ہیں اور سیکھنا کیوں ہے. یہ آپ کا سارا ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرام کو اسٹرکچر کرے گا اور یہی آپ کی ٹیکنالوجیکل ایڈوانسمنٹ کو بھی ایڈریس کرے گا اسی پرسپیکٹو کے ساتھ. کانٹیکس کی بات ہم نے کی, کانٹیکس کی بات میں نے ڈاکٹر صاحب سے بھی سنی, دوسرے بھی سنی. ہم کانٹیکس کی بات کر رہے ہیں گلوبل پرسپیکٹو کے اندر. واٹ اباؤٹ لوکل پرسپیکٹو؟ اف یو ول سی, میں آپ کو لے جاتا ہوں سندھ کے سے میں ہوں, آئی کین ٹیک یو ٹو کشمور, آئی کین ٹیک یو ٹو جیکب آباد, آئی کین ٹیک یو ٹو لاڑکانہ, There are schools, those who are shelterless schools. There are schools جہاں پہ ملٹی گریڈ ٹیچنگ ہو رہی ہے. تو یہ ساری چیزیں ہمیں سمجھنے کی ضرورت ہے ان کی لوکل نیڈس کی. اینڈ فائنلی جو ہمیں بہت امپورٹنٹ ہے چیز سمجھنے کے لیے وہ یہ کہ وی آر امپاورنگ ٹیچر بیسڈ آن سرٹن اسٹینڈرڈس, اینڈ دوز اسٹینڈرڈس شوڈ ہیو اے فلیکسیبلٹی آف ایڈریسنگ دی کانٹیکسچوئل لوکل نیڈ آف دیٹ پرٹیکولر اسکولس ٹو. That we need to incorporate in our teacher vision. ایک اور امپورٹنٹ چیز سمجھنے کی وہ ہے انٹینجبل کریکولم. That is missing. انٹینجبل کریکولم میں آپ سب لوگ جانتے ہیں کہ اس کو کیسے انکارپوریٹ کرنا ہے ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کے پروگرام کے اندر. That we have to incorporate while we are devising or restructuring our teacher education program. شکریہ.
Before getting to my 3-4 points which I have already written with me, we have to talk about making people in teacher education context, making teachers more creative, collaborative, اور یہ جو critical thinkers and reflective practitioners. میری سمجھ میں یہ آتا ہے جی کہ these are prerequisites not only for teacher educators, تمام انسانوں میں یہ وہ بنیادی چیزیں ہیں جی جو اسکول کے اندر ڈیولپ ہو جانی چاہیے. ریفلیکٹیو پریکٹیشنر صرف ٹیچر کو ہونا ضروری نہیں ہے, یہ ہیبٹ آف مائنڈ ہے. سو دیز ہیبٹس آف مائنڈ شوڈ بی ڈیولپڈ ان اے ویری ارلی گریڈز ان اسکولس. جب یہ بندہ ٹیچر بننے کے لیے آ جائے نا, وین دے کم ٹو یونیورسٹی ٹو گیٹ انرولڈ ان اے پروگرام, سو دیز ایکچولی آر پری ریکوزٹس فار ایوری باڈی. ایوری باڈیز مائنڈ شوڈ بی ڈیولپڈ آل دیز تھنگس. ہمیں کیوں کہنا پڑتا ہے بار بار, سر بھی کہہ رہے ہیں جیسے اور سب نے بھی کہا, the reason is that the kind of people we are encountering in these programs, we find that our teachers lack all these things. کمی ہوتی ہے, and that's why we keep on talking کہ یار یہ کروا دو یہ کروا دو. میرے نزدیک اس وقت we have got 4-5 questions at our hand without getting into the history and theory of everything. میں سیدھا ان پہ اگر آؤں نا تو we need to differentiate جی کہ what pre-service and in-service, ان دونوں کو what separates them. ٹھیک ہے مجھے. اینڈ پرائمریلی ٹوڈے وی آر ٹاکنگ اباؤٹ پری سروس ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرامس, جن کے اندر سب سے بڑی ڈبیٹ جو ہم اب دیکھتے ہیں نا, جو ڈاکٹر طلبہ ابھی شروع میں کہہ رہی تھی کہ دا ٹیکنالوجیکل ڈسٹرپشنس جو ہوئی, یا آپ کے پاس اے آئی کے ریلیٹڈ اور اس سے علاوہ بھی پھر گلوبلائزیشن کی ڈبیٹ ہے لوکلائزیشن کے ساتھ مل کے, اور ورک پلیس ریکوائرمنٹس ہیں جہاں پہ آپ روز پڑھتے ہیں ٹیچرس کی ضرورت نہیں رہنی, فلانے نے آ جانا ہے, کسی نے کسی کو ریپلیس کر دینا ہے. یہ ساری ڈبیٹس کے ہوتے ہوئے وی نیڈ ٹو تھنک اباؤٹ دا بیسک اسٹرینڈس آن وچ وی بلڈ آر ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کریکولم. ابھی ہمارے پاس کیا ہے, ہم کہتے ہیں دیر ول بی پروفیشنل کورسز, دیر ول بی فاؤنڈیشنل کورسز, اینڈ دیر ول بی سم پیڈاگوجی کے کورسز بہت سارے ہیں اس کے اندر. کیا اسی پرپورشن کے ساتھ, اسی ویٹیج کے ساتھ, انہی اسٹرینڈس کے ساتھ ہمارا اگلے 15-20-25 سال کا ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کریکولم کام کرتا رہے گا؟ نہیں کرتا رہے گا. وی جنرلی اسپینڈ اباؤٹ 30 credits, 24 to 30 credits on courses which we call as foundations of teacher education, جس میں آپ ایک اسیسمنٹ کا کورس پڑھاتے ہیں, ایک اس کا لیڈرشپ کا کورس پڑھاتے ہیں, ایڈمنسٹریشن کا کریکولم ہے, فلاسفی ہے, سائیکالوجی ہے, اینڈ سو آن. کیا اتنے ہی اسپیس کے ساتھ ان کورسز کو آگے کنٹینیو کیا جا سکتا ہے, جب کہ اگلے دور میں the teachers which actually I can envision should be good at using technology, should be good at using technological resources, should be good at knowing EdTech, developing EdTech services. ان کا اس کو پتہ ہونا ضروری ہے. At the same time, they should have the knowledge of whatever we are doing today as one of the strands of curriculum. جو کچھ ہم جتنا بھی آج کے کریکولم میں ہم نے ڈالا ہوا ہے, یہ سارے کا سارا will be one strand of the whole scheme, جس کا ایک میرے نزدیک ٹیکنالوجی والا اسٹرینڈ ہے, دوسرا اسٹینڈ جو ہے وہ یہ جو آج ہم کر رہے ہیں جس کے اندر یہ 3 طرح کے کورسز ہیں, اینڈ دین the third part of it will be about developing general skills of the teachers, جو جس کو آپ کہیے اس کی سٹیزن شپ سے ریلیٹڈ چیزیں ہیں, گلوبل سٹیزن شپ سے ریلیٹڈ. اچھا یہ ایک بالکل را تھنکنگ ہے جس کے اندر میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ ہمیں اپنے بیسک اسکیم آف کریکولم کو, ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کریکولم کو بدلنے کی ضرورت ہے جی. اس کے بعد جب ہم اس کے اندر آ جاتے ہیں تو ہم ہمیشہ سے اس بات پہ بحث کرتے ہیں کانٹینٹ کے کورسز کتنے ہونے چاہیے, پیڈاگوجی کے کورسز کتنے ہونے چاہیے. یہ لڑائی ہماری کو 60-70 سالوں سے ختم نہیں ہوتی تھی. ہم نے جو اب گورنمنٹ کی ریکروٹمنٹ پالیسی اگر میں آپ کے سامنے رکھوں تو وہ یہ کہتی ہے کہ کانٹینٹ کورسز جو ہیں وہ آپ پڑھ کے آئیں گے. جو بھی ٹیچر بننے آئے گا وہ ریکوزٹ کانٹینٹ کوالیفیکیشن لے کے آئے گا, ہم اس کو پیڈاگوجی پڑھائیں گے. اچھا, اس میں 2 طرح کے پروگرامز ہیں جن کی سپیس ہے, جن کے اس وقت جگہ ہے ریکروٹمنٹ میں. 4 ایئر پروگرام ہے فار ایلیمنٹری اسکول ٹیچرز, اور آپ کا 1.5 ایئر پروگرام ہے فار سیکنڈری اسکول ٹیچرز. اور اس سے آگے کالج یونیورسٹی کے لیے ہم سمجھتے ہیں ضرورت ہی کوئی نہیں ہے. وہاں پہ ہم نے نہ کبھی سوچا نہ کبھی کچھ کہا نہ کیا. دیٹ شوڈ آلسو بی پارٹ آف آل دیٹ. کریکولم اسٹریم جو ہم بنانے جائیں اس کا وہ بھی حصہ ہونا چاہیے جی. تو آپ اگلا فیصلہ یہ کر لیجئے کہ آپ کو جب کوئی بندہ آئے گا ٹیچر بننے تو آپ کو اس کو کیا وہ کانٹینٹ جو چاہیے وہ شروع سے پڑھانا شروع کر دینا ہے, یا یہ ماننا ہے کہ وہ پڑھ کے آئے گا. اور اگر پڑھ کے آئے گا تو پھر آپ اس کو پڑھانے کے طریقے تو پڑھا سکتے ہیں, آپ وہ کانٹینٹ دوبارہ سے پڑھانا نہیں شروع کر سکتے. ٹھیک ہے. اور میں آپ کو گورنمنٹ کی پالیسی بتا سکتا ہوں کہ اس وقت ریکروٹمنٹ کی اپیرنٹلی کیا ہے, یونیورسٹیز نے کیا کرنا ہے جی, یہ ان کا شوق ہے. ہم ہمیشہ جس بحث میں بیٹھ جاتے ہیں ہم کہتے ہیں یار سائنس ٹیچر بننے ہیں نا, فزکس پڑھاؤ, کیمسٹری پڑھاؤ, میتھ پڑھاؤ, بایو پڑھاؤ, 6 کورس ان کے پڑھا دو. اور وہ اب پھر اس لڑائی میں پڑ جاتے ہیں کہ چاہیے کورس ہم ان جو پڑھ کے آئے ہیں اس سے اوپر کے لیول کے پڑھانے ہیں یا وہی دوبارہ پڑھانے ہیں جو یہ پڑھ کے آئے تھے پہلے. واٹ شوڈ وی بی ڈوئنگ؟ وی نیڈ ٹو ڈیسائڈ اٹ ونس فار آل جی کہ ہم کورسز پڑھائیں گے یا نہیں پڑھائیں گے. نہیں پڑھائیں گے تو پھر ان کی ٹیچنگ کی پیڈاگوجیز پڑھائیں گے, وہ کتنی پڑھائیں گے. ایک میرے خیال میں یہ اینگل ہے جی اس کا. دوسرا جو حصہ ہے ویری امپورٹنٹ, تمام پروفیشنز کی طرح ہمارا جو کمپوننٹ آف ٹیچنگ پریکٹس ہے نا وہ بہت زیادہ اٹینشن چاہتا ہے, وہ بہت زیادہ ویک ہے. not that weak when you look at the papers we have produced, but when you look at the practice it is almost equal to nothing. ٹھیک ہے. اور یہ صرف اور صرف یعنی آن لائن ایجوکیشن والے نہیں ہیں, جو فیس ٹو فیس پڑھتے ہیں اور باقاعدہ اسکولز میں جاتے ہیں ٹیچنگ پریکٹس کرنے کے لیے, یہ ان پہ بھی لاگو ہوتا ہے جی کہ اٹس اے ویری کمپرومائزڈ ماڈل آف ٹیچنگ پریکٹس. جبکہ آپ اس کو کمپیئر کر لیجئے میڈیکل گریجویٹس کے ساتھ جنہوں نے 1 سال ہاؤس جاب کرنا ہوتا ہے. وی آل انڈرسٹینڈ what rigor they have in that practice. ٹھیک ہے. تو آپ کہتے ہیں بننا پروفیشن کی طرح ہے لیکن اس کو لپ سروس پہ ہی رکھنا ہے, اس کو ہم نے سیریس نہیں لینا, تو ہاؤ ول سچ کریکولم ورک, اور ٹیچر کیسے بنیں گے. دوسرا کہ ان واٹ ایور کریکولم اسٹرکچر وی ڈیسائڈ, آخری بات یہ ہے جی میری کہ وہ اس میں فلیکسیبلٹی فار انسٹیٹیوشنز who will be using it versus the bottom line things which you want everyone to do. اس پہ بھی ایک کلیئر کٹ پالیسی آپ کی اور پھر اس سے کمپلائنس کے میکنزم ہونے چاہیے. ابھی یہ ہے کہ بہت زیادہ ڈائلیوشن جو ہے وہ آپ کریکولم کیسا بھی بنا دیں, جس وقت وہ آپ رول آؤٹ کرتے ہیں نا تو اس کے اپنے طرح کے مسائل ہیں. میں ان مسائل کی بات نہیں کرتا جو اور چیزوں سے ریلیٹڈ ہیں, مسائل ود ان دیٹ کریکولم اٹ سیلف جن کو آپریشنلائز کرنا پاسبل نہیں ہوتا. بہت زیادہ یا تو آئیڈیل فارم میں لکھے ہوتے ہیں یا بہت زیادہ ڈی کانٹیکسچلائزڈ ہوتے ہیں, جن کو اگر کوئی ادارہ واقعی اس کریکولم کو استعمال بھی کرنا چاہتا ہے تو شاید اٹس ناٹ پاسبل فار دیم ٹو ڈو اٹ. سو یہ چند ایک ڈائمینشنز ہیں جی وچ آئی فیل وی نیڈ ٹو ایڈریس اف وی آر ٹاکنگ اباؤٹ ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کریکولم. پیچ ورک سے ہم نے بہت سارا وقت گزار لیا, اب اگلے والے دور میں وی نیڈ اے ٹوٹل ریویمپنگ آف آل دیٹ پروسیس. وی نیڈ ٹو ری تھنک دا فاؤنڈیشنز آف دس ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کریکولم. ادروائز ایک کورس اٹھا کے ادھر سے ادھر ڈالیں گے, 3 کریڈٹ کے 2 کر دیں گے, 2 والے کے 4 کر دیں گے. دیٹ ول ناٹ ہیلپ اس ان اینی وے. تھینک یو.
Thank you. We are in the second round of the questions, and again my question will start from Professor Dr. Shahid Saab. and which is related to how we can integrate 21st century skills. And अभी हम अगर देखें तो 25 साल गुजर चुके हुए हैं इस सेंचुरी के भी, जिसको हम 21st सेंचुरी कहते हैं. तो अब हम अभी भी अगर आज से स्टार्ट करते हैं तो सर व्हाट डू यू सी के हाउ वी कैन इंटीग्रेट दिस स्किल स्पेसिफिकली व्हेन वी सी इंस्ट्रक्शनल प्रैक्टिसेस और करिकुलम में उसको उसकी इंटीग्रेशन कैसे होनी चाहिए, और हमारी जो टेक्नोलॉजी एम्बेडेड अब इस टाइम हम उसकी तरफ जा रहे हैं तो क्या गैप्स हैं और इनके सर आप सोल्यूशन क्या सजेस्ट करेंगे?
Okay, thanks very much. Before I respond to this question, I must commend the overwhelming attendance here. This session should have been the bigger hall. Thanks very much.
It's all because of you.
No, it's because of you. Because of Wasim Saab. I think that when we talk about curriculum, again, we should not just isolate curriculum as a document. I think unless we talk about teacher, whatever curriculum you bring, it won't work unless the teacher is trained and is ready to implement that curriculum. I think you talked about 21st century skills, etc. Well, I would like to refer to two documents which are very important. World Economic Forum. They listed some skills which are going to be very relevant in the 21st century. And the second book is, everybody knows, Harari's book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And he also talks about some skills that, you know, though it is very uncertain what is going to happen in 2050s, but there are certain skills which are going to be relevant even in 2050s. And he, at the top is AI, artificial intelligence. And then comes creativity, critical thinking, communication, adaptability. And there is a logic behind all this, that suppose in 2050s, the world is totally changed. But if you are creative, if you are critical thinker, if you are adaptable, you can always mold yourself according to the new conditions. So I think if we are preparing this syllabus for our teachers who are going to produce students for the 21st century, it is very important that we incorporate these skills. Because when we talk about curriculum in its different components, as Adil very clearly gave us some components that we are concerned about professional part, we are concerned about pedagogical part, we are concerned about content part, and I think at the same time we should be concerned about the kind of skills which are required in the 21st century, and we can include AI in that as well. So I personally think that as we talk about PCK and pedagogical content knowledge, while we are designing this curriculum, I personally think that it shouldn't be just 4 or 5 persons sitting together and designing this curriculum. We should make a conscious effort that there are people from content side and there are people from pedagogical side. So they can sit together and they can come up with something that carries content as well as pedagogy. So this was about curriculum. As I said, no curriculum is complete without its implementation, and that involves teacher. The second area is pedagogy, and I would suggest that while we are making this curriculum, we must add an implementation plan as well. And there comes the central role of teacher. And here we have to work really hard, because we have to really work hard to move away from that transmission paradigm to transformation paradigm. To just, as Freire calls it, banking concept of education, to the kind of education which is transformative in nature. So we have to, I think there should be some inbuilt plan in your curriculum for the professional development of our teachers, not the kind of teacher education programs we see. The government claims that we have trained 50,000, but a real teacher education program that talks about pedagogy, that talks about content, that talks about professional, and that takes care of skills. So the second area is pedagogy. The third area is assessment. And here comes that all our beautiful plans, they are debunked when we look at our assessment system is totally recall based and memory based. So now I'm talking about teacher education assessment. I think instead of putting a lot of emphasis on heavy content based materials for teacher education, we should be giving more significance to performance based acts in teacher education, i.e. practice in a meaningful manner. I've seen in some of the teacher education programs that as a formality towards the tail end, the students do some module. No, I think it should be inbuilt in such a way that they are learning and they are, practicing. Finally, I talked about curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, and finally, research. As I said earlier, the kind of research we come across in teacher education programs is the same traditional quantitative based research. There is no harm in quantitative based. But the problem is that in that paradigm, most of the time, teachers are just consumers. Somebody else does some research and the findings are handed over to the teacher that you can consume. I think we should be empowering teachers to carry out what we call teachers research. In other words, action research. For that matter, I think we have to add something in our curriculum towards the qualitative research as well. That acceptability is so important. Only then our teacher can act as a researcher, and then we can see this blend of theory and practice, research and teaching, etc. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Can I say something?
Yes, you are invited for your thoughts, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Shweta, thank you. What you are saying resonates very well with my thing in reality, that there is a big gap between what the teachers have been developed in and what they are doing in their real classroom. And you emphasize that teaching practice should be made more formalized. Again, I would say the only issue that I see as a practitioner of teacher education program is that those who are teaching, the teachers, they themselves do not have the right kind of, I won't say the word qualification, but the right kind of pedagogical content knowledge to teach those teachers. So we need to work more on our teacher educators, because I believe that it's the teacher that makes the difference. Whatever curriculum you will give, बहुत अच्छी बात अभी हमें अकीम साहब ने भी बताई कि हरी कंसेप्चुलाइजेशन या फिर जाके पढ़ा दिए। बड़े अफसोस की बात है कि हम शायद उन असातिज़ा को ये नहीं बताते थे कि ये है क्या कल्चर। हम उससे बात क्या कर रहे थे, अपनी जब बात कर रहे थे जनरल अपनी क्लास में मैथ में जाकर बच्चों से काम करें कैसे कराएं। So we don't ask those classroom practice questions in our teaching because the teacher educators are not trained to teach teachers as effective practitioners and they themselves do work in it. So Shraddha, whatever you have said, I would second that. I really love the breakdown that you said, content, pedagogy, assessment and research. I think Mr. Dr. Nasir will tell his team to please focus on these 4 areas and everything will fit into it in a seamless manner. Thank you very much, Rita.
Thank you very much. I invite Professor Dr. Wasim Kazi Saab.
The state of affairs. When I say multi-pronged approach, it should in fact cover the deepening PCK, which we were talking about, particularly giving value to the classroom practices which we were referring to, or school internship which we were referring to, leveraging technological advancement, the other component. The third component will be how we will be embedding values and the skills required in or required for the world in which we are living in. And the fourth one is how we can make learning more enjoyable, more experiential, and more constructivist. So these are the four factors where we need to work on, and we need to restructure, reconceptualize our learning facilitation program rather than teacher education programs. Thank you.
मैं क्वेश्चन ओपन कर दीजिए.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. और अब हम क्वेश्चंस कुछ लेना चाहेंगे. हमारी ऑडियंस जो है वो बहुत गौर से इस पर सुन रही है, तो यू कैन जस्ट रेज योर हैंड एंड
Sir, in a BA degree, I'm a BA student in 4-year education. But can you tell me कि हम क्या same curriculum पढ़ा सकते हैं कि जैसे 1.5 year, 2.5 year के बीच जो सीखने आ रहा है 4-year curriculum हम 1.5, 2.5 में पढ़ा सकते हैं कि नहीं? And my second question is that language has impact on our curriculum. Means अगर 21st century में बात करें जरूरी है कि हम लोगों ने language पढ़ना है तो हमने इंग्लिश मीडियम पढ़ना. क्या ऐसा जरूरी है आज के दौर में है?
देखिए 1.5 and 2.5 are by nature two different programs meant for different school levels के टीचर्स के लिए ना. 4-year प्रोग्राम जो है उसमें हमारी इजम्पशन ये है कि अ पर्सन कमिंग विद 12 years ऑफ कंटेंट एजुकेशन, आपने FA किया होगा, FSC की होगी, तो आपने वो मज़ामीन पढ़े हुए हैं जो आपने आगे पढ़ाने हैं. आपको अब हमने पेडागॉजी सिखानी है और साथ साथ आपको इस सब्जेक्ट के अंदर जो बाकी फाउंडेशनल कोर्सेज जैसे एजुकेशनल बच्चों की नफ्सियात है, जिस तरीके से आप कह लें रिसर्च करना होता है इस सब्जेक्ट में, वो पढ़ाना है, असेसमेंट पढ़ानी है, ये सब्जेक्ट साथ पढ़ाने हैं ताकि आप एक तो एलिमेंट्री स्कूल में पढ़ाने के काबिल हो जाएं, और दूसरा हिस्सा ये है कि अगर आप इस फील्ड में आगे MS करना चाहें या आप PhD करना चाहें तो आप उसके लिए भी रेडी हो जाएं. ये एक उसका हिस्सा है. ये दूसरा जो प्रोग्राम है जिसको 1.5 ईयर कहते हैं, उसमें ये हम कह रहे होते हैं कि जनाब जिसने सेकेंडरी स्कूल टीचर में पढ़ाना है, सेकेंडरी स्कूल में उसने 16 साल वो मजमून पढ़ा हो जो वो पढ़ाना चाहता है. मसलन केमिस्ट्री पढ़ानी है तो पहले उसने 16 साल केमिस्ट्री खुद पढ़ी हो. उसके बाद हम उसको 1.5 साल में ट्रेनिंग कराएंगे टीचर बनने की. हम उसको आइडियली स्पीकिंग एजुकेशन का रिसर्चर बनने की ट्रेनिंग नहीं करा रहे. अगर उसने PhD करनी है या MPhil करना है तो वो अपने उस मजमून में करे जिसमें उसने 16 साल पढ़ा था. हम उसको सिर्फ़ और सिर्फ टीचर बनने के लिए 1.5 साल पढ़ाएंगे कि वो इस मजमून को पढ़ाने का एक्सपर्ट हो जाए. बाइफर्केशन तो इसलिए वो कोर्स 1.5 साल का था, छोटा कोर्स था, सिर्फ टीचिंग पे फोकस था. ठीक हो गया. ये उन दोनों का फ़र्क है. जो आपने कहा ना कि उसको इधर भी वही पढ़ा दिया करें, तो वो अब आपको मेरा ख्याल है मेरी बात में वाज़े होगा कि वो क्यों नहीं ऐसा करना चाहिए. दूसरी बात जो आपने कही कि उर्दू में पढ़ाना चाहिए, 100 से ज़्यादा % एग्री करता हूँ. हमें आई डोंट नो कि ये बीमारी कहाँ से है और बार बार उठती है पिछले 80-75 सालों में कि हम 2 दिन फ़ैसला करते हैं कि अंग्रेज़ी में पढ़ाएंगे, फिर 2 दिन फ़ैसला करते हैं कि नहीं उर्दू में पढ़ाना चाहिए. जितनी अच्छी समझ लोगों को अपनी ज़ुबान में पढ़ने से आ सकती है, उतनी अच्छी समझ किसी भी और ज़ुबान में पढ़ने से नहीं आ सकती. ज़ुबानें जितनी मर्ज़ी पढ़ाएं, लेकिन मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन अपनी ज़ुबान में ज़्यादा यूज़फुल होता है. लेकिन ऐसा बदकिस्मती से है नहीं हमारे. हमें हर थोड़े दिनों के बाद शौक़ पड़ता है कि जैसे अगर अंग्रेज़ी में पढ़ लेंगे तो कोई चीज़ ना भी आए, अंग्रेज़ी आ जाए तो शायद हम अच्छे हो जाएंगे.
सर पहले हम बहुत सारे हमारे सब्जेक्ट्स होते थे ऑनर्स प्रोग्राम से रिलेटेड, जो हम समझते हैं कि स्टूडेंट में वो स्किल होनी चाहिए जो वो जाके प्रैक्टिस कर सकें, मतलब जो इम्प्लीमेंट कर सके अपनी जो पढ़ा हुआ है स्कूल में जाके. लेकिन अब हम देखते हैं कि हमने इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी सब्जेक्ट्स जो है बहुत ज़्यादा शामिल कर दिए. ठीक है, तो क्या ये ज़रूरी है? देखें, एक टीचर जो है वो इसको असेसमेंट में जो है वो होना चाहिए, آگے ہونا چاہیے. دیکھیے ریسرچ میں ہونا چاہیے کہ وہ ریسرچ کر سکے جا کے, تاکہ اپنی وہ کلاس روم ریلیٹڈ پرابلمس جو ہے وہ ان کو سالو کر سکے. جس طرح ہم نے ایکشن ریسرچ کی بات کی, جس طرح ہم نے کوالٹیٹیو ریسرچ کی بات کی, تو آپ اس کے حوالے سے کیا کہتے ہیں انٹر ڈسپلنری سبجیکٹ سے؟ جی جرنل کورسز ہم نے شامل کر دیے جو ضروری نہیں ہے. یعنی دیکھیے کلاس روم مینجمنٹ بھی ٹیچر کے لیے بہت زیادہ ضروری ہے. جی 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 ایسے ہی. جی
آپ کا پوائنٹ بالکل ٹھیک ہے, پروفیشنل کورسز زیادہ ہونے چاہیے. جس دن تک آپ کا ہمارا یہ شوق ختم نہیں ہوگا کہ بی ایڈ جو ہے وہ بی ایس ہونا چاہیے, اس وقت تک یہ مسئلہ چلتا رہے گا. جب آپ کہتے ہیں کہ یہ بی ایس ہوگا تو وہ بیچلر آف اسٹڈیز کا کورس ہے, وہ پروفیشنل کورس نہیں ہے. پھر جو کچھ ریکوائرمنٹ بی ایس کے لیے ایچ ای سی دیتا ہے وہ تمام کورسز ڈالنے پڑیں گے. جس دن آپ کہیں گے کہ نہیں ہم اس اسٹریم میں نہیں ہیں, ہم پروفیشنل ڈگری ہیں, بی ایڈ ہے, سو ہم اس اسکیم کو نہیں فالو کرتے, ہم اپنے پروفیشنل کورسز کو زیادہ ویٹیج دینا چاہتے ہیں, تو آپ بے شک دے لیجئے. ابھی تک ہم تو یہ بیٹے ہم ہی یہ جو اس ٹیبل کے اس دونوں طرف بیٹھے ہیں یہی کریں گے.
یہ
انہیں نہیں کرنا ہے جی. بٹ یور پوائنٹ از ویل ٹیکن جی, اٹس گڈ. اور یہی سوچنا ہے یہاں بیٹھ کے. سوال کون نے دسنا ہے کن نے پوچھنا ہے؟ میں تو جواب دینا ہے.
ہاں صرف آپ جواب آپ نہیں دینا.
ڈیمانڈ ہے وہ کیا ہے؟ اکثر اگر ہم سپلائی سائڈ کا فیصلہ کرتے ہیں تو اس کا ڈیبیٹ اور لانگر ڈیبیٹ کی جو بات ہوتی ہے.
ڈاکٹر صاحب اس کا میکینزم بھی بتائیے کہ وین ول وی ڈیسائڈ کہ ناؤ دا ڈیبیٹ ہیز ٹیکن پلیس ٹو ایمپل پوائنٹ. What should be considered as saturation and what medium?
Debates ہوئی ہیں about education policy. آپ recognize کریں گے جو 2007 سے 9 کے درمیان میں جو white paper on education چلا تھا, اور اس پہ جو انہوں نے different stages of consultation بنائی تھی. We cannot consult everyone, but at least if you have those consultations, so that's one template. The other template was when Higher Education Commission itself was established, if you recall. وہاں پہ جو ٹاسک فورس آف ہائر ایجوکیشن بنی تھی, اس میں 2 سال تک ڈیلیبریٹ کیا تھا, میڈیا پہ بھی آئے تھے, ٹی وی پہ بھی آئے تھے, بہت زیادہ کنسلٹیشن کیا. What happened after that is a different thing, but I think it's something جسے آپ نے کہا نا کہ it has to be taken very very seriously and in a longer span of things. جس نے آپ نے کچھ آؤٹ لائن دیے کہ جی میرا یہ خیال ہے, میرا یہ خیال ہے. اور آئی تھنک ہمیں ایک اور کام بھی کرنا چاہیے, بیکاز یو ہیو ریسورسز جو ہمارے ینگ اسکالرز ہیں, جنریشن ہے, ان کو انگیج کریں, ایویڈنس گیدرنگ میں, تاکہ جو گلوبل ایک ریویوز ہیں, سسٹمیٹک ریویوز ہیں اباؤٹ ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کریکولم, وہ ایک جگہ کے سامنے آ جائے ایویڈنس, تو جو بھی ڈیسیجن میکر ہے نا اس کے سامنے کلیئرٹی آ جائے.
دیکھیے یہ فورم ہے نا. جی پلیز.
ساجد تم نے بہت اچھا مشورہ دیا, بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں, میں بولا میں کھڑا ہو جاؤں گا. پبلک سیکٹر ادارہ تو ڈبیٹ موجود ہے. ایک کام جو کر سکتے ہیں ہم وہ یہ کر سکتے ہیں کہ جب بھی ہم ایک کریکولم فالو کریں تو اس کا کوئی اینڈ نہیں ہوتا, یہ ڈسکشن ڈسکورس چلتا رہتا ہے. ہم یہ کر سکتے ہیں, ہم اسپیشل انٹرسٹ گروپس بنا دیں ورچوئل پلیٹفارم پر, ویئر یو پیپل کین اسٹارٹ پارٹیسپیٹنگ, اور اس کو انکریج کیا جائے جتنا ڈسکورس ہو سکتا ہو, اور اوور اے پیریڈ آف ٹائم جو اس کی ایک یہاں کی جو نیکٹی کے فیسیلیٹیٹرز ہیں اس کو آبزرو کریں, ماڈریٹ کریں, اور پھر گریجولی آپ کی اکیڈمک کونسلس کے ساتھ ڈسکشن کرتے ہوئے ایس آئی جیز کی بنیاد پر اپنے کریکولم کو ریویو کرتے ہیں. تو اٹس ناٹ این, یہ مجھے ایسا لگتا ہے کہ یہ تاحیات چلتا رہتا ہے معاملہ, یہ مسلسل چلتا رہے گا, یہ تسلسل رہتا ہے, تبدیلی کا, تغیر کا رہتا ہے. تو اس کے لیے سب سے آسان حل یہ ہے کہ ورچوئل پلیٹفارمس کریٹ کیے جائیں ان سبجیکٹ سے ریلیٹڈ, اس فریم ورک سے ریلیٹڈ, اور ایوری ون کین کنٹریبیوٹ. مے دیر بی ٹیچر ایجوکیٹرز, مے دیر بی اے ٹیچر ایجوکیشن انسٹیٹیوشن, مے دیر بی دی لرنرز, مے دیر ول بی اینی ون آؤٹ سائڈ یور پاکستان.
جی ٹھیک ہے. اچھا دوسری بات, اس کے بعد جب وہاں آ جاتا ہے تو دوسرا آپ کا ادارہ جہاں آپ کی ریپرزنٹیشن ہے وہ آپ جاتے ہیں پروونسز میں. اچھا پھر پروونسز میں بھی وین اٹ ول بی ڈن ایٹ دیئر کیپٹلز, تو ناٹ ایوری ون پارٹیسپیٹس ان دیٹ. سو لیٹس سجیسٹ اے میکنزم کہ وڈ اٹ بی انسٹیٹیوشنز انوائٹیڈ ٹو دوز پلیٹفارمس اور گورنمنٹس انوائٹیڈ ٹو دیٹ پلیٹفارم, واٹ ایور فارمیٹ یو سجیسٹ وی شوڈ بی فالوئنگ دیٹ. میں اینڈ کروں. تیسرا اس کے بعد یہ آ جائے گا جی واپس آپ کے پاس ریوائز ہونے کے لیے این سی آر سی وچ ہیز اے فیئر ریپرزنٹیشن فرام ایوری پروونس اینڈ انسٹیٹیوشنس. تو وہاں پہ اس کو فائنلائز کر دینا چاہیے. آپ اس کا کورس اور ٹائم لائن ایک سجیسٹ کر دیجئے, ول اسٹارٹ دیٹ پروسیس. جی تو لیٹس پٹ اے ٹائم لائن. جی جی میڈم ایک منٹ آپ سے طرف آتے ہیں, ایک منٹ سے. جی ڈاکٹر جی جی ڈاکٹر جی
ایسا نہیں ہے. اصل میں ڈاکومنٹ شیڈیول ہو رہا ہے. ابھی ہائر ایجوکیشن کمیشن نے ہمیں بلایا تھا, ہم لوگ وہاں گئے ہیں لوکنگ ایٹ تھنگز اینڈ ان شاء اللہ تعالیٰ
جی بالکل.
سیکنڈری کی سر آپ نے بات کی نا سر, مجھے اس سے ابھی بھی تھوڑا سا ریزرویشن. لیکن سر اگر ایک ٹیچر نے ایم اے کرا ہے, ایم ایس سی کرا ہے, لیکن وہ انگلش لینگویج میں پڑھانا چاہتی ہے, تو میں کہوں گی نہیں تم 1.5 سے سیکنڈری کرو, یہ ناممکن ہے. ہم اگر اپنی ریالٹی دیکھیں پرائیویٹ سیکٹر میں موسٹلی ٹیچرز وہ کوالیفائڈ ہوتی ہے, ماسٹر ہوتی ہے, یا کم از کم ہائر بی ایس کری ہوتی ہیں, اور وہ آتی ٹیچنگ کے اندر. میں ہمیں سجیشن ہے کہ ہم جو لفظ سیکنڈری لکھ رہے ہیں 1.5 کے آگے, اس کو ری لک کریں. Yes, it could be secondary, it could be primary, depending upon. پھر کریکولم اس کے حساب سے ان کے انسٹیٹیوشن کو پڑھانا چاہیے. فائنلی بات میں یہ بولوں, مجھے بالکل سمجھ نہیں آیا ساجد کیا کہہ رہے تھے, لیکن میں اتنا سمجھتی, میں نے آئی ٹی کا پروگرام دیکھا ہے, ان کے یہاں انہوں نے 1.5 کی کافی ورائٹی کی. وہاں لیڈرشپ اینڈ مینجمنٹ بھی ہے, وہاں ارلی چائلڈہڈ بھی ہے. لیکن دیٹس اے گڈ وے کہ وہ ریکوائرمنٹ جو ہے سر ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کے اندر اب ویری طریقے سے آ رہی ہے, بلکہ آئی سی ٹی سے تو بہت زیادہ آئے گی. So in this way, I would say not just secondary, it could be more subject specific, area specific. یہ بس اس طرح میں کہنا چاہتا ہوں.
جی
جی
thank you very much. I'm Professor Dr. Abdul Chaudhary, Director Institute of Education and Research. کیوں کرنا چاہتے ہیں, why اور کس کے لیے کرنا چاہتے ہیں, کیوں اور کس کے لیے, دو باتیں. کس کے لیے کا میں آپ کو آنسر کرتا ہوں کہ دو ہمارے پاس اس کے اگر پورشن کریں, ایک تو لیول ہے جس میں ارلی چائلڈہڈ اینڈ کیئر ایجوکیشن کا ایک لیول ہے, ایلیمنٹری ایجوکیشن کا ایک لیول ہے جس کے اندر آپ 6-7 لاکھ ہمارے ٹیچر ہیں ایلیمنٹری اسکول لیول پر. پھر ایک سیکنڈری ایجوکیشن کا لیول ہے. یہ تین تو لیول وائز ہیں جس طرح میڈم نے بھی بات کی ہے. دوسرا سبجیکٹ لیول ہے. سبجیکٹ کے حوالے سے اس طرح ہمارا سائنس ایجوکیشن ہے, ہمارا بزنس ایجوکیشن ہے, ٹیکنالوجی ایجوکیشن ہے, اور ڈفرینٹ سبجیکٹس ہیں جو انسٹیٹیوٹ آف ایجوکیشن اینڈ ریسرچ کے اندر اوور دا ایئرس, اوور دا ڈیکیڈس, جو کہ آہستہ آہستہ 60 سے 70 سے 80 سے اسٹارٹ ہو کے میچور ہوتے گئے. ایک تو ہمارے پاس انسٹیٹیوٹ آف ایجوکیشن اینڈ ریسرچ ایک ماڈل انسٹیٹیوٹ کے طور پر ہم اس کو لے سکتے ہیں, جو کہ ریسنٹلی ٹائمز ہائر ایجوکیشن رینکنگ میں پاکستان میں ٹیچر ایجوکیشن میں نمبر 1 آیا ہے اور ورلڈ رینکنگ میں 401 پہ آیا ہے. تھینک یو ویری مچ. ایک تو اس کو ہم ایک بیس بنا سکتے ہیں کہ وہاں کے جو بیسٹ پریکٹسز ہیں ان کو ہم جو آل اوور دا کنٹری جو پریکٹسز ہو رہی ہیں اس کے ساتھ ہم کیسے ریکنسائل کریں, نمبر 1. نمبر 2 یہ ہے کہ جب ہم ریویمپنگ کی بات کرتے ہیں کریکولا کی یا ریسٹرکچرنگ کی بات کرتے ہیں تو ہمارا اسٹرکچر جس طرح میں نے کہا 2 پلرز پہ بیس کرتا ہے, ایک لیول پہ بیس کرتا ہے, ایک سبجیکٹ پہ بیس کرتا ہے. تو یہ دونوں لیول اور سبجیکٹ ایگزسٹ کرتے رہنے چاہیے. اب آ گئی بات کہ ابھی گلوبل نیڈز کیا ہیں. گلوبل اسپننگ جس طرح دنیا میں ہوئی ہے اور جس طرح اسٹڈیز کہہ رہی ہیں اور فیوچر کو ہم پریڈکٹ کر رہے ہیں کہ ایک جو ہارورڈ کی ایک اسٹڈی ہے وہ کہتے ہیں کہ کوئی بھی ڈگری ہے ڈاکٹر صاحب اس کی شیلف لائف 5 سال ہے, کیونکہ دنیا کے اندر اتنی تیزی سے جو چینجز ہو رہی ہیں وہ 5 سال بعد یا تو وہ ڈگری ختم ہو جائے گی یا اس کو بہت زیادہ امپرومنٹ کی ضرورت ہوگی. تو اسی طرح ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کو بھی کنٹینیوس امپرومنٹ کی ہمیں ضرورت پڑے گی. میں یہاں پر کچھ چند ایک تجاویز دینا چاہوں گا اس فورم کے اوپر, اور ساتھ میں یہ ایڈ بھی کرتا چلوں کہ ساجد صاحب ابھی نہیں ہیں سر, آپ وسیم صاحب نے بھی اس پہ بات کی کہ ہمیں کوئی ہیسٹی میں جمپ نہیں کرنا چاہیے کسی کنکلوژن کے اوپر. یس, کوئی ٹائم لائن ہونی چاہیے, ہمیں بالکل اس کو اوپن بھی نہیں چھوڑنا چاہیے. اس کا موڈس اپرنڈائی جو ہے وہ کیا ہونا چاہیے, اس میں آئی ایگری ود دس کہ اس میں ہم پروونس وائز اور پروونس میں بھی ہم کلسٹرنگ کر لیں. کلسٹرنگ کے اندر جو بیسٹ انسٹیٹیوشنس کو ہم سپورٹ کر کے اس انسٹیٹیوشنس کے ذمہ لگائیں کہ وہ اپنے انسٹیٹیوشن اور اپنی فیکلٹی کے ساتھ مل کر پریکٹیکلی ان رائٹنگ میں وہ ان پٹ دے. جیسے ہم نے انسٹیٹیوٹ آف ایجوکیشن اینڈ ریسرچ میں میں ڈاکٹر نواز صاحب سے شیئر کیا, ہم نے 2 میٹنگز کی. تو ہم نے ایک پریلیمنری ایک ڈرافٹ کے طور پر ایک جسٹ ٹو فیڈ بیک کے طور پر آپ کو رسپونڈ بیک بھی کیا ہے ہم نے آپ کے وہ ڈرافٹ کے نتیجے کے اندر. تو اس میں چند ایک سجیشن جو ہے ڈاکٹر صاحب آئی وانٹ ٹو ایڈ ان ٹو کہ ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کے اندر جو باتیں ہوئیں, اور لاسٹ ایئر ہماری کانفرنس کے اندر آپ بھی تشریف لائے اور صدیقی صاحب بھی آئے. تو ایک تو ہمارے ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کے اندر ہمیں یہ سوچنا ہوگا کہ انکلوسونیس کو ہم کیسے لے کے آئیں اور ڈائیورسٹی کو ہم کیسے رسپیکٹ کریں. انکلوسونیس اور سے میری بالکل مراد صرف اسپیشل بچے نہیں ہیں, بلکہ اس میں جو فزیکلی یا انٹلیکچولی کمپرومائز کے علاوہ ہر انڈیویجول جو ہے اس کی ڈائیورسٹی کو رسپیکٹ کیا جائے, وہ ماڈل اتنا فلیکسیبل ہو, نمبر 1. اسی طرح جو ڈیجیٹائزیشن سے کسی کو انکار نہیں ہے کہ اس کو کیسے انکارپوریٹ کیا جائے, ٹیچرز کو اس کے بارے میں اسکلفل ہونا چاہیے. آپ نے ذکر کیا وسیم صاحب کہ AI کی جو اس کے پروز اینڈ کونز ہیں اس کو بھی ذہن میں رکھنا چاہیے کہ یہ ہمیں سنتھسس اور انالیسس سے محروم ہی نہ کر دے, ہم بالکل ہی ٹیکنالوجی ڈیپینڈنٹ ہی نہ ہو جائے, وہاں ہم فیڈ کریں اور چیزیں بنی بنائی ہمیں مل جائیں. ہمیں ویلیوز کے بڑا زور دینا چاہیے ڈاکٹر صاحب. ہمارا ویلیوز بڑا کمپرومائز ہوتا جا رہا ہے. وی آر مور مارکیٹ ڈریون کی ہم بڑی بات کرتے ہیں, لیکن ہم ویلیوز ہماری جو ہے وہ اس پہ تو اس طرح آپ نے جو بات کس طرح کا ٹیچر ہونا چاہیے, تو انٹرپرنوریل ٹیچر ہمیں پروڈیوس کرنے کی ضرورت ہے. ہمیں اس طرح کا اسٹیریو ٹائپ ٹیچر نہیں چاہیے ہوگا فیوچر کے اندر اور پریزنٹ کے اندر جو کہ صرف کنٹینٹ پڑھائے. تو ہر ٹیچرز کی میں سمجھتا ہوں 2 3 4 کمپنیز خود بھی ہونی چاہیے, اور جب وہ اسٹوڈنٹس پڑھ رہے ہوں تو ان کو بھی وہ موٹیویٹ کرے. اسی طرح آج کے ہماری سلاٹ کے جو لوگ ہیں ان کو میں اس کو وائنڈ اپ کرتے ہوئے آئی ول جسٹ ٹیک 1 منٹس مور کہ ہمیں ڈاکٹر صاحب یہ سیکھنا ہوگا کہ ہماری والی جو سلاٹ ہے ہمیں ڈی لرن کیسے کرنا ہے اور ان لرن کیسے کرنا ہے, اور ہم نے اس ینگ لاٹ سے کیسے لرن کرنا ہے. اور جب ہم اپنی پالیسی فریم کر رہے ہوں تو میکسیمم پارٹیسپیشن جو ہے ہماری ان بچوں سے بھی ہونی چاہیے, کیونکہ یہ ہم سے زیادہ ٹیکنالوجی سمارٹ ہیں اور ان کے پاس زیادہ برائٹ آئیڈیاز ہیں. اور ہمارے جو اسٹیک ہولڈر جو ہے یہ مین یہ ہیں, ان سے بھی ہمیں پوچھنا چاہیے کہ آپ کو کیا چاہیے. تھینک یو ویری مچ فار یور پیشنس لسننگ. جی
میں یہ پوچھنا صرف چاہ رہی ہوں کہ آپ نے کہا کہ یہ جو انٹر ڈسپلنری کورسز ہیں یہ اگر ہم جب تک رہیں گے تو یہ اس میں ضروری ہے, کیونکہ کسی نے کہا تو یہ انکلوڈ کرنے. کوشچن میرا یہ ہے کہ BS کمپیوٹنگ یا آپ کے انجینئرنگ کے جو کورسز ہیں یا جو دوسری ٹیکنالوجی کی ہماری کونسلز ہیں وہ ساری پروفیشنل ڈگریز نہیں ہیں کیا؟ اگر وہ BS کی ڈگری پروفیشنل ڈگری ہو سکتی ہے تو BS ایجوکیشن پروفیشنل ڈگری میں مطلب اس کے لیے ہی ہم صرف اس پہ ہیں کہ نہیں یہ صرف B.Ed ہی ہونا چاہیے؟
میری رائے یہ ہے کہ وہ پروفیشنل نہیں,
وہ پروفیشنل ڈگریز نہیں
ہے. سمپل جواب یہی ہے کہ وہ پروفیشنل ڈگریز نہیں ہے.
کیونکہ میں کام کرتی رہی ہوں, اپنے ایکسپیرینس سے بھی بات کروں گی کہ آئی ورکڈ ان جو کہتے ہیں نا کورنگی ایریا ہے جہاں کراچی میں آپ نے دیکھا ہوگا جہاں بچے اسکولوں میں نہیں جاتے, تو ان کے ساتھ بیٹھ کے ان کی میٹرک پاس ٹیچرز کے ساتھ بیٹھ کے کام کیا تو سمجھ میں آتا ہے کہ ریئلٹیز آر ویری ڈفرینٹ. میری سجیشن یہ ہے کہ لوکنگ ایٹ ویریس، ہمارے پاس جو لرنر ہے، لرنر کی نیڈ کیا ہے، اور ہمارے پاس ایک لرنر نہیں ہے، وی ہیو لرنرز اینڈ دیئر کانٹیکٹس آر ویری ڈفرنٹ. ہاؤ ڈو وی انڈرسٹینڈ دیئر کانٹیکٹس اینڈ دین فریم آر ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرام اراؤنڈ وٹ دیز چلڈرن آر، ہو دے آر اینڈ ہاؤ دے کین لرن. میں آپ کو اگزامپل بتاتی ہوں کہ جو میں نے ریسرچ کی اس کانٹیکس میں بیٹھ کے پتہ چلا کہ بچاز ہو ہیو نیور بن ٹو اسکول دے آل نیو نیومریسی ویری ویل، کیونکہ سارے بچے جو ہیں وہ کمانے میں لگے ہوئے تھے. 5-6 سال کے بچے کو پتہ تھا کہ اس کو اگر اتنے پیسے ملیں گے لیس کو کراپ کریں گے تو اتنے پیسے کے بعد اس کو اتنا پیسہ جو ہے وہ واپس ملے گا، فیملی اتنا ارن کرے گی. تو ہماری جو ازمپشن ہے کہ لرنر ایمپٹی سلیٹ ہے، وی کین جسٹ کم ان اینڈ بچوں کو لے کر آئے، ان کو وہ کر دیں. تو آئی تھنک وی نیڈ ٹو ورک اراؤنڈ اٹ. لرنر سینٹرڈ یہ نہیں ہوتا کہ میں آپ کو پیڈاگوجیز بتاؤں کہ لرنر سینٹر بنا دیں. وی ہیو ٹو انڈرسٹینڈ ہو دس لرنر از، ہاؤ ڈو وی ایکچولی فریم ایجوکیشن اراؤنڈ دیٹ لرنر. اس کی انڈرسٹینڈنگ وہ پہلے کیا لے کر آ رہی ہیں، اور دین ویئر ڈو وی ہاؤ ڈو وی بلڈ آن وٹ دس چائلڈ ہیز ان ہیز اور ہر کائنڈ آف اسکیما میں جو آلریڈی اس کے پاس ہے. تو میری سجیشن یہ ہے کہ وی ریئلی نیڈ ٹو برنگ ڈاکٹر ناز صاحب، یہ ماڈل جو ہے وی نیڈ ٹو ری تھنک. ہمیں جو ہے ایک لانگیٹیوڈنل مینٹرشپ ماڈل ہونا چاہیے جس میں ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کے جو تھیوری والے پیسز بھی ہیں نا وہ تھوڑے ہوں لیکن پریکٹس اورینٹیڈ زیادہ ہو، جس میں ایوری تھنگ از ووون، اے اسٹوری از ووون اراؤنڈ دیٹ چائلڈ. جب تک ہم یہ نہیں کریں گے نا وی ڈونٹ ہیو. اینڈ ریمبر پبلک اسکول کی بات کریں، ہم نے صبح بات کی کہ ہم نے بوائز آر لرننگ، ان کی لرننگ لیولس بھی لو ہے، ان کی اسکول اٹینڈنس بھی لو ہے، اینڈ دیز آر ماڈلز ایوری ویئر. تو وی نیڈ ٹو انڈرسٹینڈ کہ ہمارے پبلک اسکول سسٹم میں خاص طور پہ کیا ہماری کوالٹی آف لرننگ بچوں کی اتنی لو کیوں ہے. وی ریئلی نیڈ ٹو برنگ دوز ٹیچرز ہو ہیو سینس آف ایجنسی، جو کہ بچے کا کانٹیکٹ کو سمجھے اور اس کے مطابق اپنی اسٹریٹجی کو ریویمپ کرے. تو میرا خیال ہے کرٹیکل تھنکنگ والا ماڈل وہ ٹیچر کے اندر اس کے ساتھ ہوگا جب آپ ان کو پریکٹس کے ساتھ رائٹ اوے انٹروڈیوس کروائیں گے. تو مجھے لگتا ہے لانگیٹیوڈنل پریکٹس اورینٹیڈ ماڈل اور ایکوٹی انکلوژن والا پیس تو بہت بات ہوگی. تو دیٹس مائی کوئک سجیشن آن دس. تھینک یو.
ایجوکیشن کریکولم کی بات کی اور اس میں امپروومنٹ کی بات، اس میں ماڈیفکیشن کی بات ہو رہی ہے. ایک ٹیچر ایجوکیٹر کی بھی کیپیسٹی کی بات کی کہ ٹیچر ایجوکیٹر کی کیپیسٹی اگر اچھی نہیں ہے تو آپ کیسا بھی کریکولم بنا رہے ہو کیسے کرو. یہ اینگل اور بھی ہے. جو لرنر آ رہے ہیں ہمارے اسٹوڈنٹ ٹیچر، وہ کون ہیں؟ کیا یہ ہمارا ٹیچر ایجوکیشن جو ہمارے گڈ اچیورس ہیں ان کو اٹریکٹ ابھی تک نہیں کر سکا. تھوڑی بہتری آئی ہے لیکن ابھی بھی جو ہمارے اچھے لرنرس ہیں جو سیکنڈری اسکولنگ کے بعد یا گریجویشن کے بعد جا رہے ہیں وہ مختلف فیلڈس میں جا رہے ہیں. ایون پرائیویٹ اسکول میں بغیر کسی ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پڑھا رہے ہیں. ٹیچر ایجوکیشن میں کیوں نہیں آ رہا ہے ہمارا اچھا اسٹوڈنٹ؟ تو اگر کیونکہ اسٹوڈنٹ ٹیچر اینڈ کریکولم دیز آر دا تھری، دس از دا ٹرائنگل.
تینوں باتوں پہ اگر آپ مجھے اجازت دیں صرف میری رائے دیکھیے، جس دن ہم بیٹھ کے بات کریں نا ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کریکولم کی، ہمارے مسائل اتنے سارے ہیں کہ سارے اس کے اندر ایڈریس کریں گے تو حل نہیں. آج جو میں فرما رہی ہے نا، جب بھی میں ٹیچر پریپریشن کا کریکولم تیار کروں گا نا تو مجھے یہ پتہ ہے کہ میرے گاؤں میں بچوں میں ڈسپیرٹیز ہیں، مجھے یہ پتہ ہے کہ لوگوں کی لرننگ ڈیفیکلٹیز ہیں، لیکن کیا کوئی ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرام انڈیویجول یا اسمالر گروپس کو ایڈریس کر سکتا ہے؟ کبھی بھی کوئی ایسا پروگرام میری سمجھ میں نہیں آتا جی. مجھے یہ لگتا ہے کہ ان چیزوں کے لیے آپ اسپیشلائزڈ اس وقت کوئی پروگرام کی شکل لاتے ہیں جب ان کا والیوم بہت بڑا ہو جاتا ہے. میں نے ایک ٹیچر بنانا ہے جو اسپیسیفکلی لرننگ ڈیفیکلٹیز والوں کو پڑھائے گا تو اس کا پروگرام بناؤں گا، لیکن بنانے سے پہلے یہ سوچوں گا کہ اس کے گریجویٹس کے لیے پڑھانے کے لیے باہر کتنی سلاٹس ہیں، کتنی جگہ ہے جہاں جا کے انہوں نے ریکروٹ ہونا ہے. سو ان اسپیسیفسٹیز کو ایڈریس کرنا چاہیے، ضرور کرنا چاہیے جی. اربن رورل ڈسپیرٹیز ہیں، یہ ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرام کے کریکولم نے ایڈریس نہیں کرنی. یہ ایڈمنسٹریٹو معاملہ ہے جی کہ آپ کو ان کو کیسے دور کرنا ہے، فیسلٹیز کو ایکولائز کیسے کرنا ہے، یہ وہاں کا ایشو ہے. جو ڈاکٹر صاحب فرما رہے تھے کہ بزنس ایجوکیشن، ٹیکنالوجی ایجوکیشن، آج ہم پروگرامز کے نومنکلیچر کی تو گفتگو نہیں کر رہے جی. آج تو ہم یہاں یہ بالکل ایڈریس ہونے چاہیے، لیکن آج ہم بیٹھے ہیں کہ ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کا کریکولم کیا ہوگا فیوچر کے لیے، تو اس کی بات کر لیں گے. ہاں یہ ہمارا دوسری طرف ایک ٹیچر ایجوکیشن روڈ میپ کی بات ہو رہی ہے ایک اور پینل میں. وہاں پہ یہ بات ریلیونٹ ہے کہ کیا کتنے طرح کی اسپیشلائزیشنز اور پھر ان اسپیشلائزیشنز کی آپس میں ایکیولنس مارکیٹ کے اندر کہاں جا کے کھپنا ہے. یہ جابز اور کیریئر پاتھ والا ایک پینل تھا جو اس میں جا کے یہ گفتگو ہو جانی چاہیے تھی. سو اگر ساری گفتگو ہم ایک جگہ پہ جس کا ٹاپک کچھ اور ہے وہاں شروع کر کے بیٹھ جائیں گے نا, ہم کہیں نہیں پہنچیں گے. یہ میری ذاتی رائے ہے. بات اب پہ لیتے ہیں جو پھر کلوز کرتے ہیں. آخری بات تھا
میں نے یہ دیکھا کہ چار میجر تھیمز پر اگر ٹیچر ایجوکیشن میں فوکس ہو کریکولم کے جواب. ٹیچر ایز اے پرسن, the dispositions, extroversion, capacity, empathy, those kinds of things. The psychological personality, that kind of thing. Teacher in the classroom. This is strategies, ways of engaging children. What will you do in the maths class, the English class, the science class, things like that. Teacher in the staff room. What will you do with colleagues? What will happen when you become a coordinator? How will you deal with your own younger staff? How will you mentor? All of those things. And lastly, school leadership. As a school principal, what should you do? What are the duties of leadership? These four, to me, seem to be very fine hubs of a teacher education curriculum. Just an offer for consideration. Thank you.
ایک چیز جو میں چاہوں گا نا, یہ جو ساحر صاحب کہہ رہے تھے نا, یہ بڑی امپورٹنٹ بات تھی کہ ہم ہمیشہ نا کسی چیز میں ایک تھاٹ پروسیس میں انگیج ہوتے ہیں اور دین وی لیو اٹ دیئر, اور اس کے بعد پھر جب کبھی دوبارہ بیٹھتے ہیں تو وی اسٹارٹ تھنکنگ فرام اسکریچ اگین. یہ جو پروسیس ہے نا, دس ڈز ناٹ ٹیک اس اینی ویئر. اچھا, آپ کی پارٹیسپیشن کے لیولس طے کر لینے چاہیے ہمیں جی. ابھی نہیں, فوری ضرورت نہیں ہے, لیکن دیر نیڈس ٹو بی اے روڈ میپ کہ جس میں ہم یہ چل سکیں کہ اچھا ہم نے اس مشاورت کو شروع کہاں سے کرنا ہے, کنسالیڈیٹ کیسے کرنا ہے, اور کب جا کے اس کو کنکلوڈ کر دینا ہے. سو اس پہ اگر ہم ایک ٹائم لائن اور اس کا پروسیس طے کر دیں تو دیٹ ول ہیلپ نیکٹی یا NCRC ٹو جسٹ اسٹارٹ دیٹ پروسیس. جی سو یہ آپ میں سے کون ہمیں. اچھا, دوسرا جو آپ نے کہا نا کہ بڑے انسٹیٹیوشنز کو آپ لے لیں, مجھے اس بات سے اپنے ادارے سمیت یہ خوف آتا ہے کہ جب میں اس کو کسی بڑے ادارے میں پلیس کر دیتا ہوں نا تو وہ بڑا ادارہ اپنا ماڈل پورٹرے کرنا شروع کر دیتا ہے. آپ AIU کو دے دیں, AIU آپ کو چند دنوں میں یہ سمجھا دے گا کہ دنیا کا سب سے بیسٹ ماڈل وہ ہے جو ہم کرتے ہیں. آپ BZU کو دے دیں, ان کو لگے گا کہ دنیا کا سب سے اچھا ماڈل وہ ہے جو وہ کرتے ہیں. وہ ڈومینیٹ کر جاتا ہے, بجائے وہ ڈبیٹ ایکیڈیمک رہنے کے وہ انسٹیٹیوشنلائز ہو جاتی ہے. اور انسٹیٹیوشنز کیونکہ بڑے عرصوں سے اس کو پریکٹس کر رہے ہوتے ہیں تو انہیں لگتا ہے شاید یہی وے فارورڈ ہے, ساری دنیا کو چاہیے کہ وہ اس کے اندر آ جائے. سو دس ڈز ناٹ ہیلپ اس ان ایڈوانسنگ آر ٹاکس. سو اس سے اپنے آپ کو دور کرنے کے لیے جو پروفیشنلز ہیں وہاں پہ, ان پروفیشنلز کو ان چیزوں کو پڑھنا میرے نزدیک زیادہ ضروری ہوتا ہے جو وہ نہیں کر رہے ہوتے. جو وہ کر رہے ہوتے ہیں اس کے تو ماہر ہوتے ہی ہیں. سو جو دوسرے کر رہے ہیں وہ دیکھ کے, جو دنیا کر رہی ہے وہ دیکھ کے اگر ہم اپنا آگے سوچیں تو شاید ہم نا اس سائیکل سے نکل پائیں. جی سو آپ میں سے کوئی یہ ذمہ داری اگر کائنڈلی لے لے کہ یا ہمیں دے دے کہ ہم ڈرافٹ بنا کے شیئر کر دیں ایز اے کاؤنسل جو ہے کریکولم کی, کہ ہم اس کے پروسیسز اور ٹائم لائن یعنی پروسیجرز, اسٹیپس اور ٹائم لائن آپ کو بتا دیتے ہیں. آپ اس کے بعد پھر نیکسٹ اسٹیپ میں آپ اس کے فورمز وغیرہ ڈیسائیڈ کر دیجیے گا.
چلیے ڈاکٹر صاحب اگر زیادہ چھوٹی سی تجویز ہے اس سلسلے میں کہ ایک تو چاروں پروونسز جو ہیں ان کو آن بورڈ لے لیں, پھر ان پروونسز کے جو گورنمنٹ اور پرائیویٹ سیکٹر کے جو انسٹیٹیوشنس ہیں ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کے, ان کو آن بورڈ لے لیں. ان کے آن بورڈ
لینے کا, ان کو آن بورڈ ہو جانے کا طریقہ بتانا ہے. دیکھیں
مجھے کرنے دیں, اس میں آپ جسٹ یو رائٹ ڈاؤن اے لیٹر ٹو آل آف دیم.
کریکولم جی, they are not stakeholders in it. Academia is stakeholder in developing teacher education curriculum. سو میں اگر پہلی بات ان کو لکھوں گا تو وہ کسی ڈپٹی سیکٹری کو, کسی اس طرح کے بندے کو بھیج دیں گے.
میں یہ نہیں کہہ رہا اسکول ایجوکیشن کو لکھیں, آپ ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کے جو ادارے ہیں ان کو لکھیں.
ہاں ان کو لکھیں.
آپ ان کو لکھیں
اچھا
اور ان کو ٹائم لائن
میں آپ کو نا ایک سجیسٹ کرتا ہوں
ویک آپ اپنے ریٹرن ریکمنڈیشن کریں گے.
اور میں یہ آج کل دیکھیے نیکٹی میں نا جی سب کی ریپرزنٹیشن ہے جی. میں کل نا آپ کو ایسے کرتا ہوں نیکٹی سے ایک لیٹر اور لکھوا دیتا ہوں اور میں آپ کو بالکل 100% گارنٹی سے بتاتا ہوں کہ ناٹ ایون اے سنگل ریکمنڈیشن ول کم. آئی کین گارنٹی یو, کیونکہ یہ تجربہ ہمارا پچھلے 15-20 سالوں سے چل رہا ہے. لوگ صرف اس دن بات کرنے میں انٹرسٹڈ ہوتے ہیں جس دن وہ کسی جگہ آ کے بیٹھتے ہیں. جب تک آپ ان کو خط و کتابت میں رکھتے ہیں نا, پیپل ڈونٹ رسپونڈ. سو ہم اس کو فار ایور کنٹینیو نہیں کر سکتے جی. ڈویبل ماڈل مجھے چاہیے تاکہ ہم کہیں اینڈ کریں. آپ تمام لوگ ہمیں ہمیشہ اس بات پہ برا بلا کہتے ہیں.
جمع کر لیتے ہیں باقی سارے اسٹیک ہولڈرز کو, آپ سندھ میں آئیں جمع کر لیتے ہیں, آپ آئیں,
آپ خود سے کر کے جی ہمیں بھیج دیں کہ ہم یہ انہوں نے کہا
نیکٹی کے مینڈیٹڈ لوگوں کو وہاں پہ رکھیں.
دیکھیے نیکٹی جو ہے نا وہ ڈائریکٹلی سر کریکولم کے لیے رسپانسبل ادارہ نہیں ہے. NCRC اس کا رسپانسبل ادارہ ہے جی, جو یہ کام کرتا ہے. اسی کے پلیٹ فارم سے اس کو چلنا چاہیے. سو اس کو نا کنکلوڈ کرتے ہیں آپ سب کے شکریہ کے ساتھ جی. وی آر تھینکفل کہ تقریباً ہر طرح کا ورژن ہے, مور اور لیس ہمارے وہی ایشوز اور وہی باتیں جو ہم روز کہتے ہیں وہی سامنے آئی ہیں. اس کا وے فارورڈ جو ہے وی شوڈ کنکلوڈ اٹ. اٹ ول ناٹ, آئی کین ایشور یو ون تھنگ کہ NCRC کے بہاف پہ دس ول ناٹ بی رش تھرو کائنڈ آف تھنگ. ایوری ون ول بی ٹیکن آن بورڈ. آپ سے ریکویسٹ صرف یہ ہے کہ آپ کے اداروں سے جب بھی ڈبیٹ ہو جائے تو جو بھی اس کو ہیڈ کرے نا جی, پروفیشن آف ٹیچنگ پرائمری ہے. میرا ادارہ اس کے بعد آتا ہے. اپنے پروفیشن کا تقدس بحال کروں گا, اس کو ٹھیک رکھوں گا تو نیچے والی چیزیں ٹھیک ہو جائیں گی. نیچے والی چیزیں کسی شارٹ آبجیکٹیو کے تحت ڈیزائن کر کے اوپر لاؤں گا تو چیزیں خراب ہوتی چلی جاتی ہیں. سو وی لکنگ فارورڈ کہ انشاءاللہ اس کولیبریشن کو آگے بڑھائیں گے اور اب جو ٹائم لائن ہم ایگری کریں اس پہ ول کنکلوڈ اٹ جی. تھینک یو ویری مچ.
you.
Everyone. Good evening, everyone. And we are in the closing ceremony of 2 days International Conference on Quality Teacher Education. And we will start with the recitation of Holy Quran. And without any delay, I would request Dr. Hafiz Tahir Jamil Saab, please come on the stage.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن هو قانت آناء الليل ساجدا وقائما يحذر الآخرة ويرجو رحمة ربه. قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب. صدق الله العظيم. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, is one who is deeply obedient during the nights also, prostrating and standing in prayers, fearing from the day of judgment, hoping the mercy from his Lord. Say, is who knows equal to those who don't know, and only visionary people can understand. Sadaqallahu Azim.
Jazakallah, sir. We are honored to have Professor Dr. Wasim Qazi Saab, Vice Chancellor, Metropolitan University, Karachi, with us. And sir, I would request you to please share your reflections regarding conference.
شکریہ بہت بہت. میں شکر گزار ہوں ڈاکٹر ناصر محمود صاحب کا کہ انہوں نے مجھے اس اعلیٰ درجے کی نہ صرف کانفرنس کا انعقاد کیا بلکہ مجھے مدعو بھی کیا. میں شکر گزار ان کا اس لیے ہوں کہ مجھے موقع ملا کہ میں کافی پرانے دوستوں سے دوبارہ سے مل پاؤں، اور حافظ اقبال صاحب، سومرو صاحب، عباس حسین صاحب، ساجد اور ڈاکٹر شاہد صدیقی. ایک آدمی اور اپنے اشارے کر رہا ہے لیکن اس کو میں اگنور کروں گا فی الوقت، تو آپ جان جائیے کہ وہ آدمی کون ہوگا. وہ اصل میں جب بھی آپ میڈیا سے ہوتے ہیں تو تشہیر کرنا مناسب نہیں ہوتا ہر وقت. تو آج کی جو کانفرنس ہے، اور بلکہ پچھلے 2 دنوں سے جو کانفرنس ہوئی ہے، میں پہلے تو مبارکباد پیش کرتا ہوں، بلکہ خراج تحسین پیش کرتا ہوں ان تمام آرگنائزرز کو جس نے اتنی افیکٹولی 250-200 سے زیادہ انٹرنیشنل نیشنل ڈیلیگیٹس کو جمع کیا. یہ اپنے طور پر ایک پورا کام ہوتا ہے، قطع نظر اس بات کے کہ ہم نے باقاعدہ بڑی قوی بحث اور مباحثے میں رہے، مکالمے میں بھی رہے. اس کا کنکلوژن کیا نکلا؟ ان تمام لوگوں کو ایک چھت کے تلے جمع کرنا، ان کو وہ سہولیات فراہم کرنا اور تمام سیشنز کو کوارڈینیٹ کرنا ایک جوئے شیل لانے کے مترادف ہوتا ہے. اور ہر آدمی کی اپنی اپنی سوچ ہوتی ہے، ہر آدمی کا اپنا اپنا مزاج ہوتا ہے، اور ان کو ہاسپٹیلٹی ایکسٹینڈ کرنا اور ان تمام مزاج کو اکوموڈیٹ کرنا بذات خود ایک کام ہے. تو بہت بہت مبارکباد کے مستحق ہیں آپ کے تمام آرگنائزرز. آپ کی کانفرنس کی کو چیئر وہ بچی جو یہاں پہ ماڈریٹ کر رہی تھی، وہ بچی جو یہاں پر پہلے اناگرل سیشن میں پانی کی بوٹل لا کے اس ماڈریٹر کو دے رہی تھی، یہ سب زبردست بات تھی. میرے کو موقع ملا مجھ کو 2-3 سیشن اٹینڈ کرنے کا، اور ان 2-3 سیشنز پہ مجھے کچھ نہ صرف اٹینڈ کرنے کا موقع ملا بلکہ سیکھنے کا بھی موقع ملا. میرا ایک سیشن تھا ریویمپنگ آف ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرام. اس کے اندر کافی قداور شخصیات باتیں کر رہی تھیں کہ ہم کو کس طرح سے بات کرنی چاہیے.
کیا کیا موضوع اس کے اندر نصاب کے اندر شامل ہونے چاہیے, کیا کیا نہیں ہونے چاہیے. اور جو سب سے اہم بحث تھی وہ یہ بحث تھی کہ کیا یہ بحث ایک تسلسل کے ساتھ چلتی رہے گی یا اس کا کوئی نہ کوئی کنکلوژن نکلے گا. تو ساجد نے ایک ماڈس آپرینڈی بھی پیش کیا کہ اس میں کیسے مختلف اسٹیک ہولڈرز کی ریپرزنٹیشنز کی جا سکتی ہے اور اس نصاب کو کس طرح سے مزید کانٹیکسچول اورینٹڈ, مزید پارٹیسپیٹو بنایا جا سکتا ہے. ڈاکٹر ناصر نے, میں ان کی قائدانہ صلاحیتوں کا متعارف ہوں اور مزید ان کی ستائش کرتا ہوں, وہ یہ کہ یہ اپنے نقطۂ نظر سے ہٹتے نہیں ہیں, قائم رہتے ہیں اپنے نقطۂ نظر پہ. آپ سب کی سنیں گے لیکن اپنے ڈیزائر رزلٹ جو ان کے پہلے سے ذہن میں ہے وہ باقاعدہ کوشش کریں گے کہ وہی اسی پر قائم رہے. تو خواہ وہ بی ایس کے نومنکلیچر سے کا معاملہ ہو, خواہ وہ بی ایڈ کو پروفیشنل ڈگری کا معاملہ ہو, ناصر نے بہت خوبصورتی سے تمام بحث کو ایک کوزے میں جو ہے وہ بند کیا اور اچھے طریقے سے چاروں فیکٹرز پہ بات کی گئی کہ ہم نے پیڈاگوجیکل آسپیکٹ کو کیسے ڈیل کرنا ہے, کانٹینٹ کمپیٹنسیز کو کیسے ایڈریس کرنا ہے, ہم نے ایتھیکل ویلیوز کو کیسے انکوپریٹ کرنا ہے, ہم نے ٹیکنالوجی کو کیسے لیوریج کرنا ہے, ہم نے انڈیویژول ڈفرینسز کو کیسے ویلیو کرنا ہے. سومرو صاحب, مجھے بالکل قطعی طور پہ آپ کی بات نہیں بھولی, انکلوسیوٹی اور ڈائیورسٹی کو کیسے اس کے اندر انکوپریٹ کرنا ہے. اسیسمنٹ آف لرننگ کے بجائے اسیسمنٹ فار لرننگ کے کیسے معاملات ہیں, اور ان تمام چیزوں کو کیسے اسٹرکچر کر کے ایک ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کا پروگرام مرتب کرنا ہے جو بیک وقت جامعات کے لیے فلیکسیبلٹی بھی پرووائڈ کرتا ہو, انوویٹو بھی ہو اور ہماری ضروریات کے عین مطابق ہو, جو نہ صرف بین الاقوامی تقاضے ہوں بلکہ ہماری ضروریات بھی ہوں. یہ ناصر اس کی ٹیم کا ہی ہمت ہے کہ انہوں نے اس طرح سے اس چیز کو کنکلوڈ کر لیا اور ان سفارشات کا حصہ بنا کے کل نیکٹی کی میٹنگ میں پریزنٹ بھی کر دیا جائے گا. ناصر, یہ واقعتاً بہت بڑی بات ہے جو اس طرح سے کنکلوڈ ہو گئی. ساجد صاحب کے ذمے جو ہے وہ ایک کام انہوں نے خود لے لیا, ماشاءاللہ سے پیغمبرانہ اور پوئٹک. وہ یہ کہ ان کا خیال یہ تھا کہ بہت سارے لوگوں کا پارٹیسپیشن رہ گیا ہے اور اس پارٹیسپیشن کو کیسے ہم بہتر بنا سکتے ہیں. تو ایک بات ہو رہی تھی کہ کچھ کویشچنز ایسے فریم کر دی جائیں, کچھ پروونشل سطح پر کچھ چیزیں میٹنگ ارینج کر دی جائے اور اس کے اندر کیسے لوگ جو والنٹیئر کر سکتے ہیں اور کیسے لیڈ لے سکتے ہیں اور کس طرح سے اپنی سفارشات NCRC کو بھجوا سکتے ہیں. تو انہوں نے اپنا ایک ڈوسیئر بنانے کا وعدہ کیا ہے کہ کویشچن فریم کریں گے اور ان کویشچنس کو باقاعدہ سرکولیٹ بھی کر دیا جائے گا اس نصاب کے ساتھ جو کہ ایک پرپوز نصاب ہے NCRC کا, تاکہ لوگ اپنی ریفلیکشنس پہ دے سکیں. میں آپ کی بات بالکل دلشاد نہیں بھولا, آپ نے بہت اچھی بات کی تھی کہ کورنگی میں جو 10ویں جماعت کا بچہ یا 10 سال کا بچے کی جو آپ بات کر رہی تھی وہ واقعتاً ہارش ریالٹیز ہیں اور واقعتاً لوکل ہارش ریالٹیز ہیں کہ ہمارے ہاں انڈیویژول ایبلٹیز اور انڈیویژول ڈفرینسز کو ہم کیسے ویلیو کر سکتے ہیں اور کیسے انکوپریٹ کر سکتے ہیں اور کیسے فلیکسیبلٹی پرووائڈ کر سکتے ہیں جامعات کو اپنے ٹیچر ایجوکیشن کو پروگرام کو مرتب کرتے ہوئے. دیکھیے, ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرام آپ جس طرح سے چاہے مرتب کریں, اس کی بیسکس کبھی بھی سے ہم میں سے کوئی بھی ڈیویٹ نہیں کرتا. اور وہ بیسک کیا ہے کہ ہم نے ایسا استاد بنانا ہے جو سیکھنے کے عمل کو اہمیت دے سکے. سکھانے اور پڑھانے کے عمل کو نہیں, سیکھنے کے عمل کو اہمیت دے سکے. اگر ہمارا استاد, یہی ریفلیکٹیو پریکٹس بھی ہے بائی دی وے, اگر ہمارا استاد اس بات کو سمجھ جاتا ہے اور اس بات کو سیکھ جاتا ہے کہ سیکھا کیسے جاتا ہے, تو آپ کا ہر ٹیچر ایجوکیشن پروگرام صحیح ہو جائے گا. ہر بار اس کے اندر وہ جو آپ ناصر بات کر رہے تھے اڈاپٹیبلٹی کی, جو آپ بات کر رہے تھے کانٹیکسچول ریالٹیز کی, وہ سب انکوپریٹ ہو جاتی ہیں اگر ہمارا استاد, فیکلٹی ممبر خود سے سیکھنا سیکھ جاتا ہے. اگر ہم خود سے سیکھنا سیکھ جائیں گے تو ہم اپنے اسٹوڈنٹ ٹیچرز کو بھی سیکھنا سکھا پائیں گے. اور یہی اسپرٹ ہونی چاہیے कि सीखा कैसे जाता है। हर टीचर एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम की स्पिरिट अगर ये है कि सीखा कैसे जाता है, हर चीज़ आसान है। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया और मैं बहुत बहुत आपका शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि आपने मुझे इसमें मदद किया।
Sir, thank you very much for your reflections. I further request Professor Dr. Sajid Ali. He is also representing the KICS MAP hub. So, sir, please come here and share your reflections with us.
Thank you very much. I think it's been 2 very wonderful and very reflective days. Conference में जो मुझे सबसे अच्छी बात है, it was very focused. It has 4 different elements related to teacher education roadmap, teacher education curriculum. There was a good variety of people who contributed from different parts. I think the discussion was open, critical. There were people who had very different opinions, and I think this is something that we miss in Pakistani general Pakistani debate. But luckily, there were very different people with very different views, but they were accepting each other. They were critical but respectful, and I think that's the beauty of the conference. And all of us, I think we all deserve an applaud for that. कि against our norms, हमने एक डिफ़िकल्ट चीज़ों को, एक क्रिटिकल थॉट्स को अपनी मेच्योरिटी का सबूत दिया. So I think that was something that I did learn. I would also mention GPE KICS, Global Partnership for Education KICS Knowledge Innovation Exchange, who have very graciously agreed to support this national forum. क्योंकि GPE KICS अक्सर हम क्रिटिक करते रहते हैं एक्सटर्नल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस कमिंग एंड नॉट सपोर्टिंग लोकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस. तो GPE KICS जैसे मैंने पहले बताया था, एक नॉलेज एक्सचेंज का एक फोरम है, एंड दे वर ट्राइंग टू होल्ड सम काइंड ऑफ कॉन्फ्रेंस कंसल्टेशन जहाँ पे अपनी रिसर्च प्रेजेंट कर सकें. एंड आई प्रपोज टू देम कि देयर आर सर्टन थिंग्स दैट आर हैपनिंग, व्हाई डोंट वी सपोर्ट दैट. तो मैंने नाज साहब की भी बढ़ाई है, मैंने नाज साहब को फ़ोन किया कि नाज साहब आपकी कॉन्फ्रेंस है, आई वॉज ऑलरेडी इन्वाइटेड एंड दैट कॉन्फ्रेंस, would you consider if I propose this thing to GPE KICS? क्योंकि मैंने पहले इनसे मशवरा किया कि if he doesn't agree, ऐसा ना हो कि मैंने उनसे परमिशन ले ली या नहीं है. तो नासिर साहब said कि we will be happy to do that. It was a very short time, and I think I should appreciate Tuba as well. Lots of coordination whenever international partners are engaged, live streaming, so many documentary requirements from them. I should also appreciate the 4 contributors, Dr. Takbir and Dr. Zahida, Dr. Zahid, Dr. Kiran Hashmi, who at a very short notice agreed to come and present. So ये सारी चीज़ें thank you करूँगा. I think I've learned a lot, and I think it's been a great learning experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your generous remarks. And it was really a learning for me as well, and to coordinate all these activities as well. Now I would request Dr. Shamsa Aziz for presenting the conference report. Ma'am, please.
Good evening. Mic back. Respected Dr. Wasim Qazi, Vice Chancellor, Karachi Metropolitan University, Dr. Nasir Mahmood, Vice Chancellor, Allama Iqbal Open University and Virtual University, and Chairperson NECTE, Dr. Naveed Sultana, Co-Chair, all the distinguished guests, council members, paper presenters, participants. It's a pleasure that we have reached this conclusion session of today's conference. And I am remembering the day when we were planning to have a conference. It was my first official meeting with Dr. Nasir after appointment as a secretary. We shared few things, and one of them was the standards which I shared yesterday, and second was the conference. Later on, we approached to Allama Iqbal Open University, and I am thankful to all the faculty members, then different partners, including GPE KICS, और वो जो कहते हैं कि लोग मिलते गए और काफिला बनता गया. Alhamdulillah, we have reached this time. When we advertised our themes, as you have learned in these 2 days, that there were 4 main themes. People were of the view that these are very limited in scope, you will not be getting a much number of papers. But it was very good sign that Pakistani educationists and researchers are thinking on these lines, because we received 134 papers, out of which 92 were selected after peer review, which were presented in these 2 days in 15 face-to-face and 3 online sessions. Another feature was there was 2 events, which one was as in the today morning, that was arranged by GP Kicks, and they shared their researches related to Pakistan and other countries. And we are having very fruitful results showing the second 2 presenters, they were sharing the role of women in leadership. And there were very remarkable questions that how we can encourage the female to come at the leadership role. The other was conducted by Dr. Abdul Hamid, that is the inclusive education, B.Ed curriculum and inclusivity. That was another discussion forum. Along this, we had 4 panels, on all the 4 themes. And we were having a large number of participants along the panelists. We try to involve all the universities all over the Pakistan, and they are either they are online or they come to us physically, and we do have very good debates. बहुत सारी चीज़ें अभी यहाँ पे डॉक्टर वसीम ने करिकुलम से रिलेटेड बात की, और दूसरा जो बहुत था पैनल, दैट वाज ऑन लाइसेंसिंग. We do have a very different point of view, but definitely we reached, I think majority are agreeing that we should have the licensing for teachers. How it should be, what its level, or what should it be mandatory or not, it depends. But journey doesn't stop over here. From here, we are now planning to have the white papers. We would be involving the different provinces in different capacities on all these 4 areas. And then we will present a paper, policy document for the authorities, and definitely then we need the policy advocacy, for which again we will be in need of help, not only intellectual but also raising our voices towards the consent forum. I am also very happy that we do have the government representative today in the discussion panel on the induction. And definitely the panelists over there and all the participants try to convince them that we should have trained teachers in our schools instead of untrained teachers, and then there should be some career pathways for them. Thank you so much. We will share the detailed conference report with all of you, inshallah.
Ji, thank you very much. And now I would request Professor Dr. Nasir Mahmood for concluding the session and for his remarks. Thank you.
जी बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. जो अभी जिक्र कर रहे थे ना अपना साजिद, ये भी हमारे जो इंटरनेशनल पार्टनर्स हैं ना और जो ऑनलाइन कोलीग्स हैं, वो कह रहे थे कि इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का जो मीडियम ऑफ है ना गुफ्तगू, वो अंग्रेज़ी होना चाहिए, क्योंकि उनके बहुत सारे लोग बाहर मुख्तलिफ़ प्लेटफॉर्म से सुनते हैं. सो मैंने इसलिए अंग्रेज़ी में अपनी गुफ्तगू लिखी हुई थी कि इसको वैसे करेंगे. Anyway, उनके यूज़ के लिए probably there are several people online as well. So, anyway, as we come to the close of this remarkable conference, as we said in the beginning, the key words for me in this conference were like empowering educators and transforming tomorrow. Everything which we did in the conference was all aimed at empowering teachers, and there are different ways of doing it, and we kept on deliberating them. So I stand before you with a profound sense of gratitude and inspiration. Over the last 2 days, we have engaged in thought-provoking discussions which I myself have been witness to, shared groundbreaking insights, and built meaningful connections, all in pursuit of advancing teacher education. That was the main key word which we were after. To our renowned keynote speakers, few of them were online, others were in person here, panelists and moderators, your expertise has illuminated critical pathways for innovation in teaching and learning. Your contribution have not only deepened our understanding, but also sparked new ideas that will shape classroom and policies in coming days. To our delegates and participants, which we had in large number here, and I'm really grateful to them for coming over to Islamabad and joining us here. Your active engagement, thoughtful questions, and collaborative spirit has made this conference truly a dynamic place. The conversations we had, the challenges we discussed here, and the solutions we have explored together reaffirm our collective commitment to empowering educators. I assure you that whatever you said, whatever you contributed here, that all will be reflected in the report, which will be soon shared with all of you, with all institutions who are part of us in the print form, and with others in electronic form to everybody. We delved into pressing themes such as my colleagues already told you: teacher licensing, teacher education roadmap, teacher induction and career pathways, and revamping teacher education curriculum. These four basically were the engulfing areas where teacher education has to look into. And besides that, a very important milestone to all of us was the revision of the standards which Dr. Shamsa already shared with you. The remaining four things, other than these standards, I believe will be in the process of discussion and deliberations for certain period from now onward. With this report presented and then follow-up discussions and making it, we'll try to ensure it that all of us give their feedback into this. By all of us, we mean all institutions which are engaged in teacher education all across the country, so that we can then come to a document or a policy which is acceptable to everybody, which caters for the legitimate needs of all institutions. Before we part our ways from here, I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to our sponsors, partners, and organizing team who was involved in this organization of the conference. This was very much a tireless effort which made this event possible. The last 2 days which we actually witness here, they are backed by long hours of work behind it, with a large number of people working on it for months. Preparation of documents, keeping connection with people who we invite for the conference, arrangements at venues, they all take their toll, and the people have to put in a lot of work into it. I request all of you, with your claps, you can offer them our thanks for this. As we leave from this conference, I believe that we'll carry forward the knowledge we gained here, the connections we made with people here, and shared vision of transforming teacher education. Whether through policy, through our research, or through our classroom practices, each of us can play a vital role in bringing that change about which we are talking for many years now. I would leave thanks to Dr. Naveed, thanking all those who participated in it, because I'm very good at forgetting names or organizations who contributed, so I left it to her that she will thank all of them. But I would like to mention 3-4 names here which really tirelessly have put their efforts into it. One of them is Dr. Naveed herself. She was taking care of everything here in this university. Dr. Shamsa is sitting on the other side of the table. She also had, and then we had, if I take the wrong name, so please correct me, Munazza from NECTE, so Maimuna. So Maimuna is from NECTE. She has been working very hard on it, and Dr. Tuba sitting here beside all of us had worked very hard on it. It does not mean the rest of the people, which I could not take names of all, they haven't worked hard, they have worked equally hard, but it's always a team which is led by few people and then all others put their efforts into it. So we do acknowledge everyone's effort put into it, Ji. Thank you very much, and I believe that taking these ideas with us, next time when we meet together in a similar event here or anywhere else, we would be in a position to say that we have moved forward from the point where we left it today. Thank you very much.
And now I request Dr. Naveed Sultana, conference co-chair, for vote of thanks to organizers.
Assalamu alaikum. After speaking the Dr. Nasir, it doesn't look nice because it's not a decorum of the thanks as well. But I'm thankful to Professor Dr. Nasir Mahmood, Vice Chancellor, Allama Iqbal Open University. Dr. Saab, this 2 days conference was on quality of teacher education. And a custodian of Allama Iqbal Open University, I am especially thankful to you as you provided us a place, a venue for discussion of our fears. Because as a custodian of teacher education departments, and we all belong to teacher education institutions, we have a fear about our survival as well. And this conference actually provided us a platform to share our fear and to discuss the modalities and the future plans for teacher education. How can we survive in the future? And you provided us a platform, particularly about the curriculum, teacher education curriculum, roadmaps, career planning, as well as induction and licensing. During these 2 days conference, all the panelists provided us and given us a fruitful discussion and thought, how can we work on for our tomorrow teacher education program. I'm really thankful to Professor Dr. Nasir Mahmood as a Vice Chancellor. As a panelist, I also thankful to all panelists, sponsors, GP, KICS. The involvement of the KICS opens a new venue for international agencies for improving and for resolving the matters about the teacher education program. It was a good venture for us as well. And as well as I also thankful to all faculty members, council members, as well as all deans, directors and professors and session chairs who came from other universities along with their students and along with their paper presenters. I'm really thankful to all of you because your participation make this conference as a successful event. Otherwise, we were unable to make it a successful conference. I am really thankful to all of you, as well as now I come to the internal members and internal faculty committee heads as well. I am really thankful to executive committee members, including Professor Dr. Nasir Mahmood, Dr. Shamsa Aziz as a NECTE co-chair, coordinator, and Dr. Tuba Slim as a secretary of this conference, and Dr. Memuna, and all the IT experts from the NECTE and as well as other workers of the NECTE who participated and who involved in the organizing this conference. I also thankful to finance and fundraising committee, all the members who are involved in this committee, venue arrangement committee, Dr. Hina Noor, Dr. And other all members as well, refreshment committee, and traveling and lodging committee, abstract review committee. Dr. Buzdar was chairing this committee as well, program execution committee, and members of the materials development and distribution committee, media coverage committee, and registration committee, and all the volunteers and all the students who were involved in registration of the conference. I am really thankful to all of you, and you people make this conference a successful event. Thank you dear.
Thank you very much. Now we are moving towards the presentation of souvenirs to our, first of all, we will call our collaborators. And for presenting the souvenirs to our collaborators and then committee heads, I request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Nasir Mahmood, please come in front of stage. Professor Dr. Wasim Qazi Saab, Conference Chair and Co-Chair, and Dr. Sajid Ali Saab, please come in front of the stage.